Hello and welcome to TFC Podcast.
Of course, TFC stands for Phil.
Tall French children.
Oh, yes, it is.
Because we are tall French children.
We are.
I am. Are you?
We.
That means yes in
We.
French. Being from France.
Baguette.
I know that. We're live streaming for the second time ever
I know, it's going well.
in our history. Well, so far it's going well. Yeah, it looks like it.
After
looks
the
like
roaring success of last week.
Yeah.
It says on mine live, so.
Does it?
Oh, look, it's right on.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
That's
yes.
good.
Turn that
Just
right
keep that
off.
on. I just want to listen to that.
No. That's not
Oh,
right.
stop it. I'm Phil, by the way.
As ever, Matthew, Matt, Matty, Jay, whatever you want to call me.
Whoa, loads of names.
Yeah.
Two of them were diminutive of the first one.
Yeah.
Then the fourth one jumped out of nowhere.
Simply a little pseudonym.
That's crazy.
It keeps me going.
That's weird. You know who else is called Jay?
No.
Jay Kybert on the Bedside Chronicles.
Oh, I've been listening
Not
to
you
a lot
though.
of Bedside. Hilarious.
Oh, they're great,
Really
aren't
funny. Especially, mainly,
they? P-Bear.
no, Jay
Yeah.
Kyber. Jay Kyber's
Well-
really good. If anything, too
It's
good.
okay. That's you've probably got a less developed sense of humour than me. That's probably why you think that.
No, Mike, he does
erroneously.
talk about penises a lot.
Yeah. Whereas P-Bear is always witty.
Social
it's wit. It's
satire.
wit. Social
Yeah.
satire. Yeah, he's always talking about social satire.
Of course,
Broadly.
last episode
Last episode,
of TFC Podcast,
I don't remember that.
we chatted all about hopes and aspirations.
Hops and aspirations. Yeah.
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 That went pretty well.
Yeah. What did we talk about?
We talked about what we personally want in life, the role of motivation and aspiration in life, how context, culture, and time affects one's ambitions,
Wow.
and even the nature of happiness itself. I mean,
That's pretty deep.
it was deep and
Yeah.
uninformed as always, but
Yeah. Deep and uninformed. Yeah.
I loved it. We recorded at about 5 last week. We didn't,
PM.
we didn't have any
What was it about 5?
narcotics in our system at all
No.
for the first time ever, and it was our deepest one yet. However, we'd fucked that up again.
Well, yeah.
So I had loads
took
of
a
coffee and modafinil.
Coffee. Yeah. I had some Alpha Brain earlier for the first time in my entire life.
How are you feeling?
Pretty normal at the
Yeah,
minute.
you're not really focused.
You know,
Just as focused as normal.
as focused as normal. Yeah. Yeah. But the
AFAP.
stickers that came with it
Badass.
also came with a bit of cotton in the top of the bottle, so I'll be using that.
What was the cotton in the
I
bottle
don't
for?
know, but it was capped up like I unscrewed it, and then it was there was a peely
Yeah,
over the top of the bottle, and then like cotton on it.
Yeah.
Big old wad of cotton.
that's not bad.
Oh, yeah. For those of you who haven't ever listened before, first of all, thank you to people who are listening live.
Live
on Ustream. If you're not listening live, if you listen to the MP3 on iTunes or whatever,
Remember, you can
Well-
always find us live.
yeah. But first of all, where were you?
Yeah,
Left
well,
us hanging.
for one.
That's
yeah.
embarrassing for you. But yeah, you can go on Ustream, find us live. I suppose the URL is ustream.tv/channel/TFC-podcast, which is
It is.
not very pithy.
We can
But
work something
follow us
out.
on Twitter at TFC Podcast.
We'll just tweet the link.
And you can follow on Ustream as well, so you can do that if that's of use to you. But I don't
I'm not really sure what the point of that is.
know. You can follow using your Facebook account. I've done that. I've followed us.
Yeah,
So-
just in case
yeah.
you forgot what our channel is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but if you want to do that, do it.
may as well.
If you don't want to do it, then fuck you.
But it's 7 o'clock in the evening, and I'm feeling, a
Feeling
little
a bit
bit.
sexy.
Well, always,
Yeah.
110% sex appeal. Feeling a little bit sleepy, but I'm gonna wake up.
Well,
get
the Provigil
in the
is
vibe.
coursing through your veins, of course. Through your phlebs. That means veins, that does.
Does it?
Yeah, I think it does, yeah.
Mm.
Pretty sure it does.
I might just use veins.
I'm going to use phlebs, but you can use
Okay.
veins, so whatever. We'll each use one. Each week we set a different sort of word or phrase,
Yeah,
and this is an idea that we've had for a podcast for ages.
we just didn't
We
bother
didn't do
getting
it for
around to doing
ages,
it.
and then after retiring our other main show,
The Farzad
months and
Chronicles.
months ago, yeah, which reduced to TFC as an acronym, we thought we'd better just start another one called TFC so that we're not
Lying.
TFC Podcast for no reason. So we thought we'd do that, and the idea was to eventually talk about everything in the world by
Yeah.
doing a different topic each week.
And we've done 4 so far, so we're nearly there.
We've done 4, yeah.
We're probably 50% to
4
talking about
of
everything.
probably 8, yeah. I
Yeah,
think there are 8 things in the world.
yeah.
One of them, conspiracy theories. We've done that, haven't we?
Done that. Tick,
Hopes and aspirations. Yeah, we've done that.
tick. And two others. Tick, tick.
What were the two others?
Oh, you know, just
Podcasting, that was one of them.
podcasting. Yeah, meta.
What else did we do?
Oh, no, you know. Just
This is episode 5, isn't it?
episode Ep 5.
EP5. But what else did we do?
We did Hopes and Aspirations 4. We did Bad Movies 3.
Bad Movies, of
We did
course.
Conspiracy Theories 2 and Podcasting 1.
Bad
Our
Movies.
randomly generated little selection.
Yeah.
Other
Well,
than the first one.
we wrote them down and then generated randomly from that list. And this week, the topic is games.
Games.
Video games, board games.
Yeah, board games.
We usually come up with some sort of talking points, a list of talking points. None of them involve board games, but if we talk about board games, then
Well,
it'll happen.
start
It'll
right
get
off with-
real.
Love a good board game.
Scrabble.
Scrabble less
Scrabble's
so.
great. I've only
I'm
ever
thinking
played Scrabble
Monopoly.
about 2 or 3 times. Monopoly, yeah.
Monopoly's a great game.
Monopoly's good. But the thing about Monopoly is that it goes on.
Yeah, for ages.
Goes on for a long time.
I most recently played the new version of Monopoly in which you get like a credit card.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, I saw the advert for that in about 2006. Is it still?
Alright.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying.
Alright, it's
Keep
like,
up.
It was
Keep up.
the old Monopoly's been out for years. No, it was alright. It just didn't feel as good as handling wads of cash.
Yeah, I like having wads of cash, but depending on how many people you have, because usually in the past I've usually played Monopoly on a carpet.
Yeah.
And if you have like one person sitting on each side of the board, then that's a lot of. And most people don't just have a pile of cash. Most people separate them into like 10s, 5s, 1s. Then the luckier people will have 20s, 50s. So it's easy to get muddled up. So I can see where a credit card would become useful.
It just doesn't feel as good.
No.
Monopoly also lost a bit of sentimental value to me when I just wandered around London and was like, oh, this is,
Oh yeah.
Pall Mall and it's shit.
Wow. Yeah.
This is not a red value. This is brown.
This is easily brown. This is all brown, isn't it? What do they have in America?
No idea.
They don't have like Pall Mall.
No.
Regent Street. Is that even one of them?
Yeah. Oxford Street.
Yeah. What are they? Can you name all of them? Let's go. I'm gonna get a list up.
I don't think I can.
List of Monopoly
Mayfair.
streets. Mayfair's one, yeah.
Pall Mall.
Yeah.
Oxford Street.
Old Kent Road.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not doing it in order.
Whitechapel Road. Do you want the American equivalents of those?
Yeah.
Mediterranean Avenue and Baltic Avenue.
Fuck those.
They're all avenues in America, apart from Charles Place, James
What's the other
Place.
blue one? Is it Kensington?
They're all avenue apart from a few places on Boardwalk.
What's the biggest one in America?
The equivalent of Mayfair in America is Boardwalk.
Boardwalk.
The equivalent of Park Lane is
Yeah.
Park Place.
Oh,
Which
clever.
is imaginative. Liverpool Street Station, the equivalent is Short Line. But we're not just talking about board games.
Board games, I don't really play them anymore, I must admit.
No, they've fell out of fashion a little bit, I think.
I like playing them. I like the theory of playing them.
Yeah, definitely. That's
But no one ever comes around and like, oh, we should get Monopoly out.
yeah.
We should
that's
get
very
Cluedo
true.
out and we'll just have a good
I've
game.
never played Cluedo
It's alright.
or Clue. Never played
It's
it.
just okay. It's the same with like card games. In theory, like get the cards out, everyone will have a laugh and a joke, but it never really happens.
We sort of fairly recently played poker using bits of cereal as
Yeah.
chips because we didn't have chips
Or money.
or money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we sort of didn't go through the rules at the start,
Yeah.
and not everyone knew how to play. So it was a great game.
Yeah, it was fun. Enjoyable.
Yeah.
The last time I properly played poker was years ago.
Was it? Well, I downloaded a poker game on Steam recently, so I've just been playing. It's Poker Night at the Inventory, where you play with video game characters, well-known video game characters.
Oh, that ties in perfectly.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, such as Max from Summer Max. Obviously, you
Yeah.
big fan. Tycho from Penny Arcade, which is a comic about video games. Big fan again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
obviously Penny Arcade. I mean, come on.
this is the point where we say that I play games.
Yeah.
Follow the news, a big fan of the games industry, and you,
I play a lot of Football Manager.
and that's it.
That is it.
You're
Although my
not a big
hours
game.
racked up on Football Manager are unbelievable.
Why don't you? Shall we move on to the first sort of topic of discussion? Why don't you play games?
I think, well, for one, this is always a sort of running joke between people I know.
Yeah.
But playing a lot of first-person games make me feel very nauseous.
Yeah.
I get that sort of seasickness effect.
Yeah.
If I play anything for too long. In theory, that shouldn't stop me from playing games. But I just go, I don't really want to feel ill.
Yeah.
When playing a game.
I think that used to be quite common. I remember hearing about. This is just anecdotal. Don't quote me on this, please.
Yeah.
Don't publish this anywhere.
No, it's not recording. So
but okay, good. But when Doom came out, which was one of the first-person shooters.
Yeah.
A lot of people went to doctors about seasickness.
Really?
Yeah. So it was. I think it used to be
bigger than it is now.
Yeah. I suppose people just grow out of it though. Especially if kids play it, they sort of get. What's the word? Ingratiated? Is that a word even?
Yeah, I know what you mean. My gaming came from. Well, my first console I think was an N64.
Really? I never had an N64.
That I got from somebody.
Did you play GoldenEye?
Yeah.
Oh. Did you feel sick?
A bit, but it was alright. It was quite good fun. And then I remember getting a PS2.
Yeah.
When they first came out. Because I played a lot of sports and watched a lot of sports when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So like birthdays and family, people are like, oh well, they love to play football. And it's like, yeah, it's okay. And like, I've still got a PS2 now. It's down there.
Yeah.
And I have probably 20, 30 games there. I play about 2 of them.
Do you not play The Simpsons Hit and Run?
No.
Spider-Man 2?
No.
Star Wars Battlefront 2?
No.
Are you excited for Star Wars Battlefront 4?
Yeah. No.
I mean 3, not 4.
No.
Gran Turismo 4?
No.
FIFA Street 2?
No.
Marvel Nemesis? Oh, I can't even read that, it's too far away. Lord of the Rings game?
No.
Where did you get all these games?
They just came with the console.
Def Jam Vendetta? That's a brilliant game.
Doesn't work.
Ah.
That was the one I was excited for.
I think I've got Def Jam Fight for New York.
Really? Yes, please.
Or have it, because I don't have PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
I've got loads of PS2 games and no PS2.
Yeah, I mean, gaming for me now is just that PS2. Every now and again, occasionally, I'll just go and play an old game on it, and it's fun. I don't feel sick.
Yeah.
But it got to that stage where as I was growing up, I was like, well, I don't want to spend money, a huge amount of money, because when the PS3 or the Xbox 360 came out, it was what, 200, 300 quid?
Yeah, very expensive.
I was like, I don't particularly want to spend that much money on something I won't play a lot.
Yeah.
And I made that known to people at like birthdays and stuff. So I never got bought one, and I never wanted to buy one myself. So I sort of got lost in the shuffle. And then once I was out, I was like, I'll just go outside.
Have a play.
Well, masturbating.
Yeah, outside in the park.
Well, wherever I can.
I've got an Xbox 360, but it broke, and then I got it repaired, and then it broke again.
We played it for a short period of time.
Yeah, I remember we played FIFA.
Yeah.
For a bit.
We won like 11-0.
Yeah, because we played on very easy.
We played on the easiest mode, and we're on the same team. Because why play each other?
Yeah, it was really fun.
Doesn't sound as fun as playing with each other and scoring lots of goals against, I don't know, Namibia.
That's a good aspect of gaming, though, the competitiveness. There's the cooperative gaming, but there's also playing against each other. It's quite fun.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know, I suppose so. Like I say, I've not played against someone at a game in absolutely ages.
Have you?
I play Football Manager all the time. That's just against me.
Yeah.
I'm doing great on that. I always win.
Is there an online mode or anything on Football
There probably
Manager?
is. I'm currently playing Football Manager 2011 because I got it for like £2.99 on Steam.
I wonder how much 2013 is.
And I've played 515 hours of Football Manager.
Jesus Christ.
Which is...
I've not played that much of any game ever.
Because, you know...
That's so much.
10 straight days or something ridiculous. No, more than that.
Over how long? Since
15.
2011?
No, I didn't get it in 2011. I got it in...
August.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not August yet.
A year... 2 years and a half ago, maybe?
That's a long time to have played that game.
It's addictive, though. It's addictive.
Well, that's one of the things about video games, is that they can be addictive. Especially World of Warcraft, games like that. People get really addicted to those games.
Well, people die playing those games, don't they?
Yeah, a couple of people have died.
You hear every now and again, guy played for 40 hours straight, got up and had a massive heart attack and died.
That's people being idiots.
I always think that's entirely your own fault.
Yeah.
I have absolutely no sympathy.
Games can rope you in, but I've played World of Warcraft.
Didn't rope you in?
No. The people wanted me to play, and I did. And then they were like, oh, are you going to play with me now? And I was like, no.
I can understand being roped in by a game. I've been roped in by games to a certain extent. But then after you lose a couple of hours, you just have to go, well, I need to do something. I need to step outside.
Yeah.
Step away.
Yeah.
From the screen, so I don't have a massive heart attack. It just makes sense.
After a few hours doing that, or like, it's good to have responsibilities outside of leisure time so that you can have a break from that, because it just gets. In the past I must have spent like a day or so playing a game before, and it's just shit really, because after a while you just feel like, well, I've just wasted so much time doing this.
Doing very little.
Yeah.
That's something that's, especially now I'm outside of the gaming world per se. If you look at games and you go, well, a complete playthrough of a game will take like 50 hours.
Yeah. Well,
that's quite. I don't know. I'm pulling that out of my arse. But
yeah.
Someone once told me it took about 40 hours. Like, that's just too much.
It depends on which game you play.
But there's a lot of in-depth games out there. The biggest games aren't going to take like 10 hours, surely.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because the big blockbuster games tend to take about 10 hours.
Oh, shit.
And then
why are you paying 50 quid for that?
Well, games like Call of Duty and stuff like that, they have a campaign on them, like a single-player campaign.
Yeah.
Just because they sort of have to. And they tend to not last very long, and then you play them multiplayer. That's like the point of them. So you can decide how long you want to play.
Okay, well, so you have the option to play with people and kill things. Oh, that's, you know, it's not too bad. Yeah, I suppose.
There are some games, like there are some Japanese RPG games, which means role-playing game.
Yeah.
That take like over 100 hours, and it's just like.
See, that just sounds daunting.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never delved into anything like that.
For the same reason that I find it hard to get into like Breaking Bad or The Wire or The Sopranos. Yeah. I know I've got 6, 10, 8, however many seasons to catch up on. 20 hours per season. That's 6 full days of watching. Yeah. It's like, how can I start on that? I don't know. Well, why do you play on the contrary? What's
for lots of reasons. Mostly because it's fun, I suppose, and entertaining. It's just one of those things. But also, you know, I suppose it depends on which game you play. Like some games, like I'm a big fan of adventure games, and those are sort of story-based games where you sort of click around and say, like, talk to this person, talk to that person, go there, instead of like shooting, or instead of it being reactionary and fast-paced and stuff like that. So those can be sort of entertaining and a very interesting way to tell a story. And then there are some games that are just fun to play, like shooters are very fun to play, and platformers are very like I was recently playing Super Mario 3, which is a little bit dated at this point, but that's very fun because it's just like jumping around and like bright and colourful music. It's nice to just have an interactive element to your entertainment. Yeah,
I can see that, because gaming is so massive as well.
Yeah,
there is games for everybody, I suppose.
Yeah, there are a lot of different sort of.
Like I could buy a console and just buy all the sports games, and I'll just be sorted.
Yeah.
Because everything has a game.
Yeah.
Every NFL, NBA.
Every sport, I suppose, does have a game. Probably. I wonder if there's a curling game.
I imagine there's like a winter sports game.
Yeah, there probably are. There are so many games.
But like every Olympics season, they have like an Olympics.
Yeah.
So they'll have a winter Olympics.
They're always
probably.
shit.
Yeah, I've never played them, so I don't know. It's something that I always think, well, I'm not against getting back into gaming. I'm not going, well, I don't play games and that's that. I always go, well, I suppose I could. But A, I don't have the money to just be like, I'll get a new console. And B, I do have the time to play games. But I quite like how I spend it now.
Yeah,
so there's no reason for me to get into it.
Yeah. It'd be a bit of a lifestyle change to sort of start putting your free time somewhere else.
Yeah, I could definitely do it. It's not like I'm doing amazing things with my free time. I'm not reading hilarious novels or just mainly watching television.
Yeah.
Eating noodles, but...
I had some super noodles earlier.
I had some real super noodles earlier.
Yeah, and me, yeah.
What flavour?
Chicken.
I had chicken!
Whoa!
No way.
That's crazy.
Wow.
That's weird.
God. In sync.
Yeah, I know.
That's what happens when you podcast.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, yeah.
No, thank you.
Good.
But with every new wave of consoles, I just feel like I'm more and more outdated.
Well, you say that, but this new wave of consoles that's coming out like now. or in the coming months. I'm not sure what generation is this. I wonder. Is it the 8th generation?
Yes, it is. I believe we had this conversation the other day.
Yeah, I've
when
forgotten.
we were discussing this.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, 8th generation. New 9th generation. I was wrong.
But a point, I don't know if it's
think
suitable to bring up now, but I'm going to bring it up anyway.
Yeah.
Is that when I've played or seen people play modern games,
Yeah.
and while they're not realistic in the fact that you're in space and you're shooting aliens,
Yeah.
they're very sort of lifelike. The people, the characters, the movement, and I sort of am put off a bit by that. I quite like games to be
There's still
obviously games.
There's still a lot of like the indie scene of games is very sort of pixelated, sort of colourful games of making a comeback.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, obviously that was a restriction of hardware. Like you could only put so many pixels on the screen and only use so many colours. But now it's an aesthetic choice, and a lot of indie developers are doing that now.
But I always think that it just impresses me. Not impresses me, or it just endears me to it a bit more.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Because it's obviously a game rather than a something. I suppose it still is a game. But
Yeah.
It feels like a sort of piece of cinema-y type, overblown, dramatic effects, and it's like I'm sure that while it is impressive, I
Like
just want to be like wee, wee.
There's a game that was at E3, which
Mhm.
is the big game thing. You know, it was just on.
I've heard of it. What, in America?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a game called Last of Us, and that's apparently looks very sort of cinematic. I think that's been released actually, and that's very sort of cinematic, and it's developed by Naughty Dog, and they used to do like Crash Bandicoot and stuff,
Yeah.
but now they do games like that. What's the name of the PS3 one? I can't remember what it's called. Nathan Drake. I can't remember what it is, but it's very sort of cinematic and like, you know, adventure-y. You're watching a lot of things, and the sort of Call of Duty games as well that we were talking about a minute ago. The campaign sequences of those.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever played one of them.
No.
But the more recent ones, it's sort of you'll run around and shoot for a bit,
Yeah.
and then your character will sort of run off, and you'll still be watching it through first person, but there'll be like a big cinematic sequence where they do something or like watch an explosion or whatever. It's very sort of action movie-esque, and like a big part of that time is spent watching rather than playing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I was going to sort of bring it up sort of question-wise later on, but like video game writing
Yeah.
is surely a very difficult art in itself.
Yeah, I suppose it is.
Especially with these first-person shootery type games.
Well, I mean, it depends on the type of game. But yeah, I mean, for a lot of games, like if you're writing for a movie, you're just writing the plot beginning to end, and you can control everything.
Yeah.
But if you're writing for a game, especially when it's an in-depth game or like an RPG or whatever, you've got to write for all the contingencies, and like maybe your character will want to go into this building and talk to this person, maybe they won't, and maybe they'll want to make this choice, maybe they won't. So you're writing a lot more.
It's also your character. Whereas if you watch a film or a television show, it's not your character.
Yeah.
You can become engrossed in someone else's story, but it's not your story.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're controlling that person, it is your story.
Especially when it's a sort of RPG type thing, like Mass Effect, that sort of thing, where you're making decisions. And
so surely it's up to the writers to have that emotional investment in a game. I don't know if you get that or you don't get that.
Well,
or whether that makes a good game. I don't know.
The thing about video game writing is that it is more challenging, but also the people who do it tend to be less, well, maybe not now, but especially in the past, they tend to be less talented than like Hollywood writers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like especially going really far back, people who wrote video games were the same people who were doing like the code for it. Mm-hmm. And when you play a video game from like the early 2000s or whatever, the writing is almost always shit. Voice acting also almost always really bad. But I suppose production values now are sort of getting a lot better.
Well, I suppose before the sort of most recent boom, so to say, if you were good enough, why would you write a game if you could write a film?
Yeah,
just make more
so.
money.
Yeah.
Unless you're really passionate about.
Yeah, unless that's actually
writing.
what you want to do. Yeah, if you want to get into writing.
Maybe people do. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there are definitely a lot of people out there whose dream it is to sort of write for video games or whatever.
Have there always been, or is that a modern thing?
Yeah, well, I suppose the first games were made not for profit really, because if you
Just
go back
fans.
to like the 80s and the 90s,
Yeah.
if you said, "Oh, I want to make video games, I want to write video games," that wasn't a profitable thing because video games were like nothing back then. Well, especially in the 80s, like if you want to make a video game, you weren't going to make money off it. You were just going to do it to show to your friends and to play and stuff. So back then it would have been like a thing of passion. But now that video games like have millions of dollars put into them and make millions, it's more of a sort of, you get a lot more notable writers working for games.
Do you get what is a budget of a game? I've no idea.
Millions? It depends. It depends what.
But I mean, your regular, not best-selling game, but your regular PS3 game, Xbox game.
Well, do you want me to find an example for you?
Oh, if you want.
Like probably about as much as a film, really.
Because films are always coming out like, oh, it took X amount of money at the box office, it cost this much, its budget was that. Whereas you don't hear that with games. Why?
I suppose it's just not as newsworthy, I suppose. I don't really know.
Also, games
you do hear
are really
about sales,
expensive.
but
I was going to
games are expensive.
So expensive.
I think that's... Yeah, I don't know. Hang on a second. I'm Googling, so I'm not talking very well. I'm going to find the budget of the latest FIFA game.
FIFA 13?
FIFA 13 budget.
I imagine it's quite a lot. But that's a massive unit seller.
Yeah, it is. I can't find it.
I would assume.
But yeah, I mean, it depends on the sort of game. But like even indie games will cost a lot of money to produce because there are a lot of costs. There are a lot of hidden costs like license fees and stuff, publishing fees, stuff like that. It's the same with films as well. It's the same sort of problems are being faced. Like if you want to make a film, you've got to put the money in to make it, and then you've got to put the money in to have it picked up by a studio so they can distribute it and put marketing into it. And it's the same thing. Like there's a developer studio and then publishers, and the developers have to sell the game to the publisher, and the publisher has to. Well, it depends. I mean, indie games, the developers publish it themselves, but they're expensive to make.
Yeah, I imagine that.
Yeah.
I've never...
Especially big games.
But I just find it weird that that's not really spoken about. Like with films and television, it's quite easy to find out how much it costs.
It's spoken about less. I'm going to find out what the latest Call of Duty Ghosts. I wonder if the budget of that is even public. Budget.
Why would they not make it public?
Well, I suppose I mean, by public I mean sort of noteworthy enough to have been published anyway. Because again, like you said, people don't really talk about it. So
I just find it strange that people don't.
Can't really find anything about it.
I don't know. It doesn't
probably
really
like
matter.
100 million or something. Probably a lot. But they take away a lot of money as well.
Sells a lot of units.
A lot of units, a lot of discs.
A lot of DLC.
A lot of DLC, yeah. DLC is a big seller. That's a very recent thing.
Downloadable content. People who aren't gamers like myself.
Well, I mean, nowadays, the sort of business model for a game is like you release the game, you withhold a lot of content, and then you sell that content later on. Like let's say you're selling a shooter. Yeah. You'd say like, there's this special gun, and it's got like a really good scope on it, and it's really powerful. Give us 20 quid, and we'll give you this gun. And it's like there are a lot of, like free to play is a big model now, where the game is free. You can download the game for free and play it, but there are loads of add-ons that you can just buy.
Like Candy Crush.
Yeah, like Candy Crush, but bigger games do it as well.
Bigger games than Candy Crush? What?
Yeah, there are a few.
It's the biggest game in my life. 69p to get through to the next episode. Don't think so.
Is the DLC for Candy Crush?
You can download like special moves. You can.
Do you buy them?
You buy it, yeah.
Yeah. Have you?
No, of course not. There's one you can buy. It's like a paintbrush that paints over certain bits, but it's like 28 quid.
What?
It's extortionately expensive.
28 quid?
It's ridiculous.
That's unbelievable.
I looked at it. I was like, "What the fuck? Who buys that?"
Yeah, DLC is pretty pretty gross, pretty
It does sound a bit
Grody.
cunty to be like,
Well-
here's a game, but if you want to be good at it, give us more of your money.
The thing is, though, it's not really the fault of the developers or the publishers because, well, it sort of is for setting the precedent in the first place. But a lot of retailers will say, "We'll only sell your game if you give us exclusive DLC." So, let's say GameStation isn't around anymore.
Yeah.
Game will say, "We'll only sell Assassin's Creed 4 if you make it so that people who pre-order it here will get like an extra bonus costume or whatever."
Yeah.
And that means that people end up missing out on the content in the game just because they chose to buy it at a certain place or they chose to get it cheaper elsewhere or whatever.
That's just ridiculous. That's surely ridiculous.
Yeah, like there's a really bad example is recently there's a game called Metro Last Light.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's, Yeah, it's like a survival sort of first-person game. It's post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
And there's a game mode in it where everything is like really difficult, like it's like super hard mode, and that's the mode that all the fans say you should play it by. And it was like a DLC, like you had to buy that mode of game, and the developers said like this is the mode that we want people to play, but they had to make it DLC because retailers wouldn't sell the game if they didn't. So you'd have to like buy this extra mode, which is sort of how you were supposed to play it. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of DLC. It's also taken away cheats from games. You don't get cheat codes in games anymore.
I've
Because
not.
you download them instead.
I don't play games that don't have cheats.
Don't play any modern games then.
I don't.
I wonder if this is still okay to drink. This sort of watery.
I would say no.
I'm going to drink it anyway because I'm very thirsty.
Cheats are the best part. San Andreas cheats were some of the best things ever.
Yeah,
Get an armoured tank, get all the weapons, get all the health.
I agree.
And it makes a game more fun to play.
But now, you download them instead.
Yeah, but you pay
Or
for
you
it.
earn them by playing the game, like achievements and stuff. Like, beat the game and then you unlock a cheat or whatever. It's just not a thing anymore. I don't know. I suppose the big reason is DLC. But
Because they can make
it's also
money
just
from
fallen
it,
out of
so-
fashion, yeah. But it's also just fallen out of fashion. Like, you don't have cheat codes anymore as much.
Yeah, it's just a business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Which is sad, I suppose, but nature of the beast and all that.
I'm not sure if there was a sort of, what do you call it, like a restriction
On cheats.
on cheats made by console people or something. I don't know. There might have been.
It's great being able to kill people with dildos and stuff. What's the...
Well, you can
Why
still
would they
get
take that
dildos
away?
in most games, obviously.
Yeah,
Like Saints Row
dildos.
Third marketed themselves by saying, "Oh, look at our dildos," and then if you play the game, the dildos are not the best part of it, and they're just immature, and you're just like, well, these dildos are shit. And the best part of that game is like all the wrestling and all of the characterization and ridiculousness, but not dildos. But they market dildos because they know that people like you
We'll go dildos,
just want
yes.
dildos.
Tick, buy.
You're what's wrong with the games industry, Matt. Just by wanting dildos.
My lack of being in it other than for dildos.
Yeah, really. Only not really.
Yeah, not really.
What's the future of gaming?
Again, outsider, so I can't really say, but from what I...
As an outsider.
Yeah, from what I can see, they're trying to connect everybody. Whereas any game I've played,
Yeah.
I've played with someone in the room or on my own. Whereas now, everyone around the world is playing with everyone. You get little headsets you can talk into. Everyone's connected up. You're playing like a little kid from Japan.
Yeah.
It was like amazing. I don't understand. I don't want that.
Online.
But people seem to
games.
love it.
Yeah. Well, it depends, I suppose. Again, the gaming is such a big thing that there's always going to be something for you. There's always going to be like single player games and stuff. Because there are always going to be people who want that.
But people seem to want the ever connected.
Yeah, multiplayer
World.
is a big thing.
Because a lot of... I'm basing this mainly on adverts
Yeah.
and stuff I just happened to come across on the internet, but that seems to be a big selling point.
Yeah. I mean, I think in the past it was like sit around with your friends and play in the same room. But now, I think Nintendo is the sort of last straggler for
them
that.
playing with you. That's a more, but they do a lot of family-based consoles.
They're like the casual gaming people.
Yeah.
Which is totally contrary to what they used to be, because they used to be the sort of big, you know, play Zelda and Metroid, and you'd be like, yay, I'm a hardcore gamer. But now, it's, you know, Mario Kart and shit.
Nothing wrong with Mario Kart.
Nothing wrong with Mario Kart. I love a bit of Mario Kart.
I had Mario Kart on N64. That very first, I don't know if it was the very first.
No, there was Mario Kart on SNES as well.
Oof.
There might have been one before that, I'm not sure.
But I had Mario Kart on there. It was great.
Yeah.
It wasn't very good, but it was great.
Yeah, Mario Kart's really good. Have you ever played it on the Wii? Little steering wheel.
Oh, yeah, I played it once and I was abysmally shit
Yeah.
and quit in angry rage.
Nintendo games used to be really difficult. I've got a SNES emulator. SNES was the second Nintendo console, Super Nintendo Entertainment System, obviously, as you know. And I was playing Super Metroid, and it was really fucking difficult, and I kept dying. And I remembered how difficult games used to be. Well, I say that, I mean, that was released when I was like 2, but still.
But still are difficult to this day. I suppose that's a good thing, surely.
What, that they're difficult?
Yeah.
Well, they're not as difficult now. There are a lot of games that are piss easy, and it's just there's no challenge to them. Which I suppose can be fun. It depends what you want from a game. Like, I used to play... I remember when I was in school, I used to come home from school and just sit around and play Spider-Man for a few hours. And I wouldn't do any of the missions. I'd just sort of swing around. Crawl on walls. And that's a good way to relax. Like, there are a lot of really relaxing games out there, like Minecraft. A lot of people play Minecraft, where you just sort of piss about and do whatever you want.
That took the world by storm for a while. Everyone on all my social medias
was playing Minecraft.
Everyone's like, look at this building I've done on Minecraft. And there'll be like 15 comments like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever... This is literally the best thing I've ever seen. You're amazing. And it just looks like a Lego building.
Yeah.
And I went, wow, that's...
I suppose
time.
you can't...
Only took me 4 hours. Go outside, go for a walk.
I suppose if you've never played it, then it's difficult to sort of understand. But it's just very... Well, it's fun to me, but a lot of people don't find it fun.
Like
but a lot of people do find it fun. It's sort of Lego-esque, yeah.
I've never played it. I'm sure it is fun to just knob about. But there seemed to be a weird pride in everyone playing it. And everyone being like, well, I've built this.
Well, it's because when you put effort into something, I think that's why. It's because people spend hours and hours
but there's self-pride. I always have a great season of Football Manager. And I think to myself... As it says on the screen.
But that's not creative, though. You've not like
I've built
used
that
your
team
imagination
up from the bottom.
to create. Yeah, I know. But...
Tactically, whoever thought Fiorentina would work with wing backs, but they do. And the fans applaud Jay Kyber for another cracking season at the helm. And I go, oh, that's good. I go right.
Yeah, but you wouldn't show that off because it's not creation. It's not like a.
That's quite.
It's not like there's no art to it. It's not artistic in any way. Mm. Whereas, like, if you just did a cool drawing.
Yeah.
Of like. Hang on a minute. Like this cock that I did earlier.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
You sort of want to show that off because it's a...
I like to show my normal cock. Let's get that right out.
Just snapshot.
Made this.
Well, you didn't make it.
Well, cultivated it.
Yeah, you grew it.
Yeah.
You raised it.
Quite literally. It baffles me a little bit. People are very quick to just be like, well, this is the most amazing thing ever. Another thing that makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
What are they called? Where you just watch videos of people playing games.
Yeah, that's really common now.
Super popular.
Yeah. Have you ever done it?
Some of the biggest
it's entertaining.
things.
It's good.
Someone linked me to a wrestling one once.
Yeah.
And while the first 2 minutes were interesting, then it got very boring very quickly.
Well, it does depend on who's doing it, because a lot of people aren't entertaining in any way, and they'll sort of commentate over the game. And it's just like watching someone play a game with nothing else to that.
I remember.
But especially if someone's giving good commentary or being funny or whatever, it can be.
I remember hearing about it and thinking, oh, it just must be people filming levels. It's basically like a walkthrough guide. I thought, okay, that's probably useful to somebody.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, this is like a thing. People just want to watch you playing a game.
Well, it's another one of those things
another level of what the fuck are you doing? Go and play the game yourself. What?
But it's a totally different thing, though, isn't it? That's like saying, go and play football yourself when you watch someone play football. Like, you watch football.
Yeah, and then often...
Or go and play football then.
Often I go, I might go out and play some football.
But don't watch it, just play it. It's a totally different experience, isn't it? It's not a replacement for playing it.
But you could watch a real football. I wouldn't watch FIFA online. Do people watch FIFA?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, I don't, but people do because it's entertaining.
I don't know if it is.
Well, obviously it must be because
Well, I
millions
suppose
of people.
It is to some people, but I don't see where it becomes entertaining.
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that used to be a really sort of geeky, nerdy thing that no one did, like Let's Plays. That people just used to call them Let's Plays, and they'd be hidden, like buried in the internet, and no one would really watch them.
Mm-hmm.
But now, you go on YouTube, and they're like the most popular channels.
Well, there's the famous, what's it, Yog something or other?
Yogscast, yeah.
What's that? Is that Minecraft?
Yeah, mostly Minecraft, but other stuff as well. Hang on a minute, I'm going to try and find the... how do you find the YouTube charts? YouTube charts.
And it's I don't know, I find it a little bit strange. I understand someone wanting to play a game.
YouTube charts, on the top 5...
Yeah.
You've got 2 Yogscast channels.
Yeah.
And the
TFC
second
Podcast.
Well, we're close behind. The second one is the Syndicate Project, which apparently is a Minecraft thing. Third one is E4, and then the Telegraph. And the rest of them are mostly Minecraft based. You're watching people play Minecraft.
But obviously, the success speaks for itself, and people must be interested in it for some reason.
Yeah.
But having browsed it, I just don't understand.
It's just, I don't know. You can't really articulate it. Like, why do you find films interesting? It's just one of those things that you find entertaining, but not for a meditated reason. Like, you don't really think about why it's entertaining. It just is.
Yeah. Okay. I doubt I'm gonna jump into that world.
I suppose especially if you don't have any interest in games anyway, it's sort of not going to be for you. Hang on a minute. Right, popular channels on YouTube. Number 1.
TFC Podcast.
No, guess again. One Direction.
Right, okay.
Number 2, Yogscast.
Yeah.
Number 3, The Syndicate Project, which I think is also Minecraft.
It's great to see the 1D boys up there, by the way.
Number 4, Dubstep. Number
Just
5,
dubstep.
UKF.
The whole genre of dubstep.
UKF Dubstep. Number 5, Vsauce. Have you ever watched Vsauce?
No.
It's quite good.
What is it?
Sort of interesting. It's like this, but not as good.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. Top Gear is number 6. Number 7,
That's on telly,
KSIOLAJIDEBT. I don't know what or who that is.
Right, okay.
And the next one, the Slow Mo Guys. And then the next one, Jack's Gap. I don't know what that is. And then Charlie Is So Cool Like. And number 10. YouTube is interesting. I like YouTube. I spend much more time on YouTube now than I ever did before. I think there was a time when YouTube first came out, I was sort of like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then it started becoming quite popular and people vlogged. And I thought, that's stupid. I hate that.
Yeah.
And now I watch all that stuff.
I have about 3 or 4 hours a week that I just lose on YouTube. But it's usually in one go. I don't go on it for days, maybe just to look up a clip.
I think I go on it every day.
And then eventually I'll just fall in and end up watching a 3-hour documentary on the rise of the new Black Panther Party, which I did the other night. And I was like, well, this is weird.
Is that any good?
Oh, they're a bit racist, new Black Panther Party.
Does it?
Don't like us whites.
Don't they?
No. Louis Farrakhan, former Speaker of the Nation of Islam, took over, then died. Big old brain aneurysm.
Wow. I watched that Louis Theroux documentary.
Where he met him. He's batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Cool. I always like those documentaries.
What, Louis Theroux documentaries
Yeah.
or documentary in general? Louis Theroux.
Well, documentaries. I can't say documentaries in general.
Yeah.
Because loads of them are shit. But I do
them
like
are shit.
documentaries. Louis Theroux works perfectly as a documental because he's sort of feeble.
Yeah.
And so
I think he uses that.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. But no one's ever going to be like attacking him or go for him because he's a feeble sort of guy. He's going, what do you think about this?
Yeah, he's very clever as well.
Yeah.
He should do
So
one of
is
the
his
games.
brother.
Who's his brother?
Guy who wrote The Men That Stare at Goats.
I'm not sure who wrote that. Louis Theroux. Brother.
I'm
Marcel.
wrong. Marcel. The Man Who Stared at Goats is somebody completely different.
Who is Marcel Theroux? British novelist and broadcaster.
What did he write?
The Confessions of Mycroft Holmes, A Paper Chase.
I wasn't thinking about that.
No.
No.
He also wrote A Blow to the Heart.
Mate, I don't know.
Far North. Strange Bodies.
But yeah, he's a clever family, is what I'm
The
saying.
son of Paul Theroux, novelist.
Went to Cambridge.
Wonder if Louis Theroux plays a lot of games. Wonder if he watches YouTube. Wonder if he watches Yogscast. Warwick Davis is on Yogscast quite a
I
lot.
doubt he's got the time, surely.
Yeah, I bet he has. He's got a lot of money. He doesn't really need to do a lot. What do you think he's doing? Working on documentaries?
Who, Louis Theroux?
Yeah.
Probably just looking after his kids.
Maybe.
Hanging around with his wife. I don't know.
How old are his kids?
No idea. Younger than 43, because that's how old he is.
Is he?
Yeah.
I bet they must be about our age. Maybe a bit younger than us. I wonder. Did you pay attention to E3? Any of that stuff?
No.
No?
No. I saw it was happening. I saw that a wrestler went there.
Who went there?
The Miz, to talk about the new WWE game.
Right. I think that was probably one of the lower stories. I think that was
Yeah.
probably buried.
It was
I didn't hear about
But on the mainly wrestling based news websites that I frequent,
that. Yeah.
it got mentioned briefly. So
Got mentioned briefly.
yeah, so it wasn't
Wow.
even a big story for them. What happened at
Because
Because this is-
I mean, it was a big one because
this is sort of the future of gaming. Is this a thing that happens every year?
yeah, E3 happens every year.
And they go, here's what's coming up this year.
Yeah. It's a place for
Here's what you can buy.
yeah, basically. Yeah.
Games.
Adverts.
And then everyone just has a play
Yeah, everyone has a play.
and goes, God, this is like FIFA 13. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And then the curtains
Nailed
draw.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the future of gaming judging by E3 this year? P, the man there.
well-
His friend Phil.
Phew. That was close. That's very close. Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and to a lesser extent, Wii U,
I've heard
and also
interesting
Xbox
things
360 and PS3.
about the Xbox One.
What have you heard?
I go
I'm
on
here to
Reddit
dispel these rumours.
quite a bit,
Yeah,
and they had a bit of a shitstorm about it. They were like, "Oh, that's just terrible,"
yeah.
because of I don't know pre-owned games and
Yeah,
internet.
yeah.
And then someone said they changed it,
Hmm.
so I don't know what's happening. Get me back in the loop.
Well, first of all, what happened was the PS4 was revealed,
Yeah.
but not properly revealed, half revealed, and a lot of reporters were saying that behind the scenes Sony were planning on a lot of DRM stuff and stuff like that, and then Xbox
DRM.
Digital Rights Management.
Oh right, yeah. I'm glad I know that now. That's right in the diary.
That's not a gaming thing. That's just
No, yeah.
you're
Go
big
on.
on like CDs, music.
No.
No.
MP3s.
Ooh. Pre-owned games and all that shit as well. And then the Xbox One was revealed, and the service was sort of didn't look very good because you couldn't use pre-owned games, you couldn't sell games, you couldn't.
That for
A
me.
lot of all that shit was going on, and people didn't like that. A lot of people didn't like that. And then Sony came out
Yeah.
at E3 and revealed the PS4 properly and said, yeah, we're not getting involved in any of that DRM thing stuff, and sort of threw Microsoft under the bus quite a lot and said, we're a lot better than Microsoft. You don't have to use pre-owned games or anything. And also, the PS4's hardware is a lot better, and also it's quite a lot cheaper. So at that point, Microsoft was absolutely fucked because there was pretty much no incentive, other than if you want to play Halo,
Yeah.
there was no incentive to buy an Xbox One.
Quite a lot of people want to play Halo. It's quite big, isn't it?
Yeah,
But not console saving.
but would you spend $400 or like however much money it is in pounds just to play Halo 4. Not a lot of people will.
No.
So it was looking really dire for Xbox.
Sure,
so
that's
they
the
immediately
of whoever PlayStation or Sony. Surely that's their job.
what?
It's a bit to throw everyone under the bus.
Well, yeah. I'm not sort of judging.
Oh, right,
I'm
okay.
just saying that's what happened. And then Microsoft, immediately came out and said, "We take it all back, and we've reversed all of our policies and all that."
Right.
So they spent years building this infrastructure around not being able to use pre-owned games or anything like that, and they've just thrown it all away because the backlash was so.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, surely that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It shows that the consumer still has some, albeit minute, say.
I would say a big say, because they've basically forced Microsoft to throw away what they've been working on for years, because they've essentially said we're like no one's going to buy this.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a lot of power in the consumer's hands. Potentially too much. What could go wrong? Lots of things.
No idea.
But yeah, so now
Mm-hmm.
the playing field is a bit more level, but the PS4 is still a lot better because it's better in terms of hardware.
Mm-hmm.
It's also cheaper.
Retail at £350 apparently.
Yeah.
Compared to the £429.
Well, there you go.
Of,
For the Xbox One.
that'll come down easily.
And also people were pissed off about the Kinect on the Xbox
Didn't
One.
it always have to be connected?
Yeah, but they've not changed that. That's still the case.
So what does that mean?
It doesn't always have to be connected to the internet. It just always has to be turned on.
Why would you want that?
Well, I think
Isn't
their
that like a little
justification-
camera?
Yeah, and a microphone.
Why would you put a camera and a microphone that's always on in your house?
That's what a lot of people have been saying. I think their justification was, or is, that they want people to start using voice recognition to sort of do things like, say, Xbox.
I'll turn it on when I want to do
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
So that's just spying of sorts.
Well, I don't think it is. I think a lot of people have said, well, I don't want people spying on me, but I don't think they could get away with streaming video from like millions of homes. I think that would get noticed if they did that. Because that's
From
a lot of-
millions,
yeah.
but not from selected members
But
of the
why
general
would they
public.
select people though?
Because they
People
do
have been
it,
saying this, but why would they? They're not the government. They're Microsoft. What do they care?
I don't know. You never know.
I suppose.
Do the government have... They could just be like, yeah, just see, he's got an Xbox.
Yeah.
This potential bad person. Just flick it on, see, he's sleeping, fine, turn it on.
I suppose.
Flick it on, what's he doing?
But-
Making a bomb? What? SWAT team, shutters, lasers.
But
Invasion of privacy.
which governments have the power to do that? To sort of
All governments.
what to just say? No, a government can't just commandeer like the property of a company, can they? I don't really know.
The American government definitely can do that, I think.
Can they?
They can commandeer any piece of land. So...
But yeah, they have to justify it in terms of like
Well, yeah,
terrorism.
but
or whatever.
their justification is very vague and broad. So
Yeah, I
they
suppose
just be
so.
like, well,
I just don't
if
think it will
necessary,
happen.
they
though.
could. In the
Yeah,
same way
I
that
suppose
they,
in principle it is
in
quite.
the same way that they've been snooping on everybody,
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah.
phones. In theory, why would they do that to millions of people?
Yeah,
That doesn't make. They don't need to do that. How are they going to troll through that? Doesn't make sense. But they did
they
it,
do. Yeah.
and then they got Snowden, got him on espionage charges, don't they?
Yeah.
Pot,
Connect.
kettle, or connect. Yeah, I think it surely.
It is quite weird, yeah. The whole concept of it having to always be on is quite a weird one. And the PS3 has a camera, but it doesn't have to be on. You can just unplug it.
Turn that right off.
Yeah, just turn it off.
So what are you looking at? If you were to buy a console,
Well, I'll get a PS4. Did I say PS3 a minute ago? I meant to say PS4.
why? Because it's just better.
Yeah, because it's better. It's not really... In the past, there have always been big arguments between platforms. Like people saying, oh, Xbox 360 is better, PS3 is better, whatever. But now there's not really much of a debate because it's not quite as neck and neck as it has been. Now it's very sort of in Sony's favour. So, I don't know. People will still sort of argue though. People will still say the Xbox is better because if you're like a 14-year-old kid and your mum could only afford to buy you an Xbox, then you're
Yeah.
going to want to justify it. You're going to want to say
Yeah.
the Xbox is better because that's the one I have and that's the one I'm stuck with for the next 5 years or whatever. So people are still going to argue about it, but, you know.
Whilst I was sort of trying to vaguely scramble together some information for this podcast,
Yeah.
I came across. Have you ever heard of Ouya? Ouya? Open source
How do you spell
video.
it?
Ouya.
No.
But it's like an open source video console type thing.
Oh, yeah.
And they did it on Kickstarter.
How long? Was it recent?
I think they got the money, 8.5 million,
Googling it.
like the end of last year. But
yeah.
it's going to cost about $99.
Oh, really?
And it's, yeah.
$99, £99 as well.
All
Android.
all,
it uses
all the
Android.
games will be downloaded and stuff. It won't be the same. It'll be very sort of. I don't know if it'll be indie or if I don't know what it'll be, but
Well, Steam was gonna do this. Steam was gonna have a Steam box, but it doesn't look like they have.
it just seemed interesting. £99 and free games
Yeah, I'll do that.
seems a lot more appealing. I don't know the quality of the game,
If this happens, then yeah, I'll do that.
but like this
Oh, yeah.
article is talking about how the new Call of Duty costs $59.99.
Yeah.
When you can buy a console for a little bit more. I don't know. Is that a thing? I don't know of any other consoles really.
Well, I mean, there have been other consoles that aren't the ones that you know of, like that aren't the famous ones, but they tend to just sort of die out. If they don't make a lot of money, then no one ever hears about them. Like there was I can't remember what it's called. I'll just Google it really quickly. I can't find it. But there was a console fairly recently that never made. I don't know what happened, but the business failed and they couldn't release it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to use like a mouse and keyboard instead of a controller.
Right.
And like no one's ever heard of it because it didn't sort of. Obviously, it didn't get out. It wasn't sold. It was called the. Oh, Buzz, can't find it. But yeah, there are other consoles.
But they
I
fail
don't know if
for
there
a
are
reason.
I don't know if there are any other sort of 8th generation consoles at the minute. There's the Wii U, which is the sort of laggy behindy console this generation. But that's because they marketed it really poorly. Like, people didn't know what it was. A lot of people thought that it was an accessory for the Wii, which it isn't.
Is that the handheldy one?
Yeah.
It looked terrible to me as a non-gamer.
Well, it looks like the thing with the Wii U is it looks like it could be interesting, but Nintendo haven't really come up with any good ideas for it. And it's like, why did they? I don't understand why they wanted to release a game console with a tablet if they didn't have any ideas of how to use the tablet in a creative way. It just seems like it was doomed from the start. Like,
Because tablets are suddenly very popular. So
yeah.
aren't they just
I suppose they're just trying to jump
quickly
onto it, yeah.
and do
But it just seems
anything
like a
about
very poor decision.
I don't know. I don't know what the future of games hold, really. Very outside everything. But you were talking the other day, what's the head-weary one?
Oh, the Oculus Rift.
Oculus Rift.
Yeah.
You put on your own face.
On your own face, yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Very rarely on other people's faces.
That sounds great. Sounds right good. A virtual reality headset for 3D gaming.
I don't know if you get on with it because
Got 16 million in investments.
people are already talking about it, like how it makes them nauseous. So I don't know how you'd get on with that.
Well, I imagine this is not going to be the one for me, but this is the beginning of something that I would want to play.
Well, they've been trying to do this sort of stuff for ages, and now it's
So you have the sort of the technology for it now, sure.
yeah. Because before, the problem has always been latency, as in like lag, like the signal would take too long to get to the headset.
Mm-hmm.
But now they've finally sort of narrowed that down and sort of got rid of that.
What I want, and I said this to you the other day, remember that episode of Red Dwarf?
Yeah.
I want that from a game. And when that comes out...
Like the holodeck in Star Trek? Yeah.
Well, very possibly.
Or the Matrix?
Yeah. I'm going to stick with the Red Dwarf analogy.
The one that everyone knows?
Yeah.
The ubiquitous one?
Yeah, Red Dwarf. Where he goes and he has sex with that woman in the car and it rocks. And Crichton's wearing a hat. It's great.
Yeah, I don't really remember that episode very well. I remember that at the end they had like jam on their face.
Yeah. Yeah. And Crichton's wearing a hat.
Is he wearing a hat? What hat is he wearing?
It's like a 20s hat and a long coat.
I don't even remember him being in it, Crichton.
They all get in it. Like Lister starts off in it.
What's Lister doing in that episode? I remember Cat being in it.
Yeah, Cat's in it. They're all in it over time.
Is Crichton in it? I thought that was before Crichton's time. I can't remember him being in it.
But anyway, yeah, virtual reality games.
Yeah.
That sounds right up my street.
It's sort of... It depends what you mean by virtual reality. Because literally all this is putting the screen closer to your eyeballs. And people are more willing to accept that as being virtual reality. But it's the same games are being played, like Call of Duty, etc.
Do I then have to have a controller as well?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck that.
Well, how else would you control it?
With my mind. I don't know, but if you have a controller, that's not as good. I want
I suppose so.
What
if you had a gun-shaped controller?
Yeah, much better. No, but I want to be able to walk through things, see something on the floor, and lean.
Well, you wouldn't be able to walk around because you just walk into furniture. You could look around.
Can't I get like a treadmill that I stand on?
Yeah, people have done that. Or it's always worked out really terribly. Like there was one where it was like a giant ball.
Yeah.
And you would walk in the ball like a hamster.
Yeah.
And it was obviously
prohibitively
expensive. Well, no, the ball was on a gyroscope, so it would stay still.
Yeah, it does sound. It's expensive.
And that was they showed that a few E3s ago, and it was.
There's a reason I'm
awful.
Not a developer. I think. Because I don't really know what I'm talking about. But I'd quite like to just sort of live a weird.
You could just be the ideas guy.
Yeah.
You just come in and say, "Listen, make this happen."
I want to be able to just walk about.
just give them the DVD of that episode of Red Dwarf.
Yes, please.
And they'll say like, "What? So like the holodeck?" And you'll be like, "No."
Red Dwarf.
Like the Matrix. No.
No, not quite Red Dwarf. I don't know. It just seems like that would be amazing if you could be the person in the game rather than being a character in the game. If you can be the one that's
again, it's a very fine line because that's already sort of what it is. It's just that if I say to you like you're already in the game, you'd be like, "Oh, bollocks, no, not." But if I put the screen close to your eyeballs, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, you are." So it's a philosophical difference. It's not really
just because you can see it like I'm seeing the room, but you're still controlling it with your hands. Well, that is better than just watching it on a screen.
At what point would you say it's finally...
When I'm doing all the actions, when there's no need for this controller.
So when you're physically acting out, what about Kinect? What about if you had a Kinect and an Oculus Rift?
Yeah, well, if it worked and I could like pick things up, shoot...
but you'd have to actually physically feel the things in your hand and feel the weight of objects when you pick them up. So you'd have to...
Well, I'm not the side. I'm the ideas man.
I mean, I'm asking you, is that what you want? Like you'd be in the game, and you'd say like a cushion.
Yeah.
You'd touch it, you'd feel it on your hands.
Yeah.
And you pick it up and feel its weight, and then throw it at a zombie Nazi.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
You can't do that with a headset though.
Well, yeah, I know. That's just the first thing because you're then in it.
Yeah.
We're breaking down barriers here. Because then you can live life.
What if they give you some gloves?
Yeah.
That vibrate in such a way that you can feel objects.
Yeah.
Like tactile feedback.
Yeah. Potentially.
What about like holograms?
I'm cool with holograms. I don't know if it works. I'm just saying because surely the idea of games.
Yeah.
And the reason that stuff like violent games and space and alien games and all that are so popular is that you're living a life that's impossible to live here. You're sort of doing something you could or never would do in real life. Not in all of them. Obviously, FIFA, you can go and play football. But then, even then, you're playing as the England team. It's not... But you're like, well, I'll never be able to do this. Like Grand Theft Auto, you're just shooting people and beating people to death. That's great, but you'd never be able to do that in the real world. So surely you could be the person doing that.
I wouldn't want to do it in the real world.
You wouldn't want to shoot someone in the head?
Definitely not.
Bang a prostitute. Why not? Steal cars.
But for me though, the thing about like taking GTA as an example, what I want to do is to play that game. I don't want to be. I'm already doing exactly what I want to do, which is do a cartoonish version of that. I don't want to physically swing a bat and feel the bat vibrate down my hands as it cracks someone's skull. That's a little bit too real for me. Like the most recent Grand Theft Auto game was GTA 4.
Yeah.
And they had this new technology called Euphoria, and it was like it sort of dynamically animates people, so like say you shoot someone in the leg, they'd sort of limp off, and it wouldn't be like someone hasn't animated that it's like the computer is sort of animating it as it's going, and it was like really realistic, and the voice acting was much more realistic and stuff. So like you'd shoot a policeman in the leg, and he'd sort of limp off and put his hands up and be like, please don't kill me and stuff like that. And it was like, I'm leaving, I don't want to do this. Play GTA San Andreas instead. Because it's more cartoonish. It's more like you were saying earlier on that you prefer more cartoonish games.
Well, this is more a pipe dream
Yeah.
of mine because it's not a reality.
So you only want something you only want it to be either really, really realistic
or not realistic,
or not at all. You don't want the middle ground.
No thanks. I know. It just seems that would be fun.
It'd be cool for some things, not violent things. I don't think many people would go for it. But like, if you could beat Iron Man or something like that, or if you could fly around in space or something, that'd be pretty cool. To sort of do that in a
just
vicarious way. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool as well.
It's like I'm walking on the moon.
Yeah.
I'm shooting JFK. Maybe not shooting JFK.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Again, you are describing the holodeck. You should watch Star Trek. What I want you to do.
Yeah.
Go home.
Yeah.
First of all, step one.
Leave Studio B.
Leave Studio B. Go straight home.
Yeah.
Watch Star Trek.
Which ep? Epi.
Epi 3. Series 12.
Right. Okay.
That's not really.
If you knew that, I would have been a little bit concerned.
No. Next Generation only went for a certain series, obviously. You know that.
I know that. I'm not stupid.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a big thing in Star Trek is that they have this holodeck, and it's set like way in the future, as you know.
Yeah.
And they could just go to the room. It's a bit dated now, like it's a bit silly now. But
Star Trek, don't think so.
But the idea is that you can go into this room and say like, I want to be on a beach or whatever.
Yeah.
And like live out whatever.
Why would you ever leave the room?
Well, that's a good point. There was one episode, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Where what's that guy's name in 18? The really crazy guy.
Mr. T.
No, the crazy white guy. He was actually crazy. He was like, I don't know.
I can't remember.
Marduk?
I don't know.
But he was in it anyway, and his character was like addicted to the holodeck, and he'd just go in there and like have sex and.
That sounds great. I don't know why you wouldn't. I don't know why that's frowned upon. Because you just be happy all the time.
Yeah, but would you want to just live in a virtual world instead of the real world?
Isn't Star Trek in space?
Yeah.
So I can't go to a beach.
No, but the thing about that is that was made in the 80s and 90s when gaming wasn't really a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't. I think if they made that now, then the characters would go into the holodeck and sort of shoot aliens. But back then, they would go into the holodeck and have dates on beaches. It was all beaches. It was just beaches.
Yeah, beaches.
Like, they'd always go to beaches.
Get a lot of stock footage.
Yeah, I suppose that's. But they'd make up sets of beaches, like fake. They must have had to haul a lot of sand into Universal Studios.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think I'd go to a beach though. If I had a really realistic virtual reality thing, my first port of call wouldn't be a beach. It wouldn't be like a beach on another planet either. It wouldn't be like a Jupiter beach.
Yeah,
it'd be
true. Whitby.
You know, sorry,
Whitby.
No.
Whitby Beach. No. Oh.
Grimsby.
Yeah.
Probably a Welsh beach, just for the familiarity. You know.
Yeah.
Because I used to go to Wales.
A lot.
Yeah. Well, once, twice. No, but you'd play something.
I think I just want to win things. I just want to achieve. It's like I want to just go and play in the World Cup final. Something I'd never be able to do.
Well, sport now and gaming
are
becoming one. Because in Korea, in South Korea, one of the big sports is StarCraft 2,
Again, this
which is a
baffles
video
me.
game. Yeah.
So people play a video game. Well, A, that's not a
It's
sport.
televised.
A, it's not
It's
a
an
sport.
e-sport. It's an e-sport. What does the E stand for? Electronic.
Electronic.
Because it's got electricity in it.
It's barely a sport.
Yeah, it's very weird. But I don't know. I've never watched it, and I never have any intention to watch it. But I don't watch football because I find football really boring, and I bet StarCraft is a lot more interesting.
And
Because
football, no.
because football,
No.
like nothing happens for like 10 minutes, and then someone scores a goal. It's like, yeah, he scored a goal.
But some
And then
things
again-
do happen for 10 minutes, but it's only something you'd appreciate if you're a fan. There's not a goal, might not be a goal.
I suppose that's the same
There's
thing
all
for...
sorts of tactics.
Yeah, but that's even
Great
more
tackles.
so. Even more so with like a game like StarCraft, because that's all tactics and all strategy.
But surely that's why people play a lot of those games, because it's constant.
Yeah,
There's
it's very fast.
I don't know about
very
shooters
action-packed.
and games and stuff like that, but there's very little period of time where you just wander about. Like in films,
Yeah.
in a lot of films,
Well, it depends what sort of thing again, but
there's a lot of setting up what's going to happen. There's a lot of
Yeah.
background story, and arc
Exposition.
and exposition. Whereas to me, games just seem like do this, shoot, do this, run
Yeah.
about.
I
There's
think
very
I
little
was
just wandering,
thinking about this the
go
other
and
day.
have a coffee.
I think the reason that a lot of people who don't play games find them intimidating and confusing is because someone who plays games will be like, here, have the controller, play this, and you play it and you'll be baffled and you'll be like, how are you so good at this? What are you doing? And it's
Yeah.
because really they've had all the exposition at the start of the game where the game teaches you how to play.
Yeah,
And then if you just give the controller to someone else, they won't have had that tutorial.
that's the same with any skill, though. Surely, if I just give you a football and like do 50
Yeah.
kick-ups, you won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
But if you've practiced doing kick-ups for ages,
Yeah.
you'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
So if I say play a game, you'll be shit. But if you've tried it, you'll be good. It's just practice.
But with games, it's more of a, like, you learn how to play it within like 2 minutes. Because the game will say, press this button to shoot, press this
Tutorial
button to jump.
levels.
Yeah, exactly.
Like on Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, where he goes and he sees
Beast.
yeah, Beast does the voiceover, and
Is it?
Professor X is in a wheelchair, and he's
Yeah.
about just being like, Beast will talk you through, and it's like press triangle.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
all green.
Yeah, they're in a holodeck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, can't remember. I've
It's
got it
on all the
somewhere.
walls, like grids and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got it somewhere.
I remember there was a level on that where you're in that sort of holodeck type place.
Mm-hmm.
And there are like buildings everywhere
Yeah.
made of black but with
Black.
green grids on them.
Yeah.
And there were the henchmen walking around it, and
Yeah,
you beat
you
them
have
up,
to-
and they'd
you
be
have
like,
to
ooh!
Yeah.
Ooh!
And you could stand on the top, and you could aim and then triangle shoot.
Yeah,
them,
yeah, yeah.
And then you
Shot
could
web.
get them from yeah.
Yeah.
Or you could do balls of web.
Balls of web. Oh, you should play the movie Spider-Man games.
Oof.
You'd be loving them. Spider-Man 2,
Yeah.
the game based on Spider-Man 2, brilliant. The game based on Spider-Man 3, not
That's
as good.
good.
Not as good. That came out at the wrong time. It was the start of the Xbox 360
Oh,
console
that's a shame.
generation. So new Spider-Man game though,
For
because there's a new film.
new film.
I've not played it though, and it's not new now either. It's like a couple of years old. But yeah, Spider-Man.
Would you class games as art or an art form?
I would. A lot of people don't. Roger Ebert doesn't.
Well, he's the famous one,
Yeah.
but games.
He's dead now, so he lost.
Roger Ebert said, and I quote, I'm going to let you rebuttal Roger.
Okay.
To my knowledge, no one in or out of the field has ever been able to cite a game worthy of comparison with the great dramatists, poets, filmmakers, novelists and composers. That a game can aspire to artistic importance as a visual experience, I accept, but for most gamers, video games represent a loss of those precious hours we have available to make ourselves more cultured, civilised and empathetic.
Well,
I'm going to give you another one in a minute, so don't
Okay.
don't think you're all Rogered out.
all Rogered out. Well, he says that gaming is like a waste of time, which
Yeah.
is true for a lot of games.
To be fair, he did say this in the
Couple of years
mid
ago.
2000s.
Oh, did he?
This was shortly after.
Oh, so this was his original thing.
This is in 2005, following the Doom game.
Doom 3.
Someone said whether Doom was essential to proper appreciate the film Doom, which he'd said was shit. Yeah, it was true.
I'll say that I played Doom.
Yeah.
and then I watched Doom.
Yeah.
Neither were very good. So
I'm pretty sure The Rock was in Doom.
yeah, The Rock was in Doom. Yeah, Carl Urban, he was also in Doom.
I think that says all you need to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Roger, how would you?
Just as a quick aside, there's a handful of evidence to say that playing games is like really good for you in various ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like playing shooters improves your vision measurably, apparently, and your accuracy. Makes you a better surgeon.
I would imagine it improves reflexes.
Yeah, mental acuity and all that. But
there's a whole, I don't know if genres are right, but there's a whole load of those games that improves all those brain training and marketed that way.
But I mean, it's true for any hobby though. Like play the piano.
Yeah,
and you'll
do something. And you'll get
do
better.
anything and you'll get better at life.
Yeah, that's why we podcast.
Yeah. What else has he said?
He said, one obvious difference between art and games is that you can win a game. It has rules, points, objectives, and an outcome. Santiago, who was a woman who said something.
Yeah, I know who she is.
Might cite an immersive game without points or rules, but I would say then it ceases to be a game and becomes a representation of a story, a novel, a play, a dance, a film. Those are things you cannot win, you can only experience them. I agree with that.
Well, what he's saying is absolutely true. Games have objectives, but he's then saying that like art shouldn't have objectives. But nowhere, he's the only person who's ever said that. It's the thing with art is that everyone has their own definition, and you can just say paintings aren't art because art doesn't have paint, and it's like you're just making that up. He's just pulling it out of his arse.
We talked about his previous one. He says no one in or out of the field can ever be able to cite a game worthy of comparison. While that is true, especially for me, surely one of the reasons that is because gaming, as we know it, came about in the mid-90s.
Yeah, but also
the fact that drama, poetry,
literature,
films, and music
it's been around like a long time,
thousands of years.
Yeah, since the late 70s, early 80s.
So surely it's in its infancy. So to compare,
but also I think that's completely irrelevant because again he's coming up with his own definition of art, which no one else holds, which is that he's using the word art as an extolment. He's saying that that's a term of like you have to earn it, but it's not. It's a category. It's something to.
Well, so what is a definition of art?
I mean,
it's like an expression of like creativity or skill, or.
I'll just Google it and find a definition. But nowhere, I don't think there's any definition of art that says it has to be good. That's what he's saying. He's saying that what he's saying is that games aren't good art. He's not really arguing that games aren't art. I'm going to go to dictionary.com. My favourite. What's your favourite online dictionary?
I usually whack it right in Google and it comes up right there and then.
I've done it, but that's not happened, so. Annoyed about that. Right, dictionary.com, art. The quality, production, expression or realm according to aesthetic principles of what is beautiful, appealing, or of more than ordinary significance, 1. Number 2, the class of objects subject to aesthetic criteria, works of art collectively as paintings, sculptures, or drawings, a field, genre, or category of art, the fine arts collectively, any field using the skills or techniques of art. So this defines art as being something that's designed to be beautiful or designed to be pleasing, which games obviously are.
Yeah, it's pleasing.
So, I think that I think a good definition of art is that it's something that you create intending for other people to see it, and it doesn't have pragmatic value. Like you're not like you create a chair intending for other people to
sit on it
and see it and sort of use it, but it's pragmatic, it's useful. Whereas if you create a painting, that's never going to be used. It's not going to contribute anything. It's not helpful. It just exists for itself.
But surely you want that piece of art to like evoke something. Sure, don't you like emotion,
but not something useful or pragmatic in any way. Like it's not going to help anything. It's just supposed to be purely entertaining or beautiful or whatever it is.
Well, the thing with this whole argument is that you can't really compare games with really anything.
Because they're a thing on their own.
A, they're a thing on their own. B, they're the newest of any sort of medium of this kind. And it's only now that they're even becoming anywhere near as complex as even a film or a television program.
Yeah.
Or so yeah, you could say, well, it's do great games evoke emotion like great paintings do
Yeah.
with some people, but then I could go and I've been and looked at the Mona Lisa and gone, oh, it's shit.
Yeah.
It's about this big, and it's shit.
Subjective. Is it really that small?
No, it's not that small. It's about that, and it's on like a huge, and it's behind glass.
Like A3.
Yeah, it's not as tiny.
Probably looks smaller as well because he's standing far away.
It's in a room on its own as well.
Yeah.
But it's an argument. I think the problem with this argument is a lot of people in the art critique that kind of industry. The majority of these people, that Roger Ebert, when he said this would be in his 50s, 60s,
Yeah.
you've not grown up with games. You've
Yeah.
not ever experienced games
Yeah.
of any kind.
Sort of foreign to him.
In a similar way to how I am, it's like I don't really understand.
Yeah.
And he even more than understand,
Yeah.
because he's never experienced it
Yeah.
where I have a little bit. And in the same way that I wouldn't discuss classical music
Yeah.
because I don't really know what I'm talking about, surely he shouldn't just be like,
Discuss
well,
games.
I don't think video games are very good.
Yeah.
Well, you've never played them.
Yeah. It's
So-
not really his sort of field of
field of
expertise.
expertise. You can have an opinion, but the thing is, when you voice that opinion when you are someone of such gravitas and fame, then people are always going to latch onto it.
I mean, I don't think a lot of people really agreed with him though. He was one of the most liked people, especially like on the internet and with our generation as well. People really like him and respect him. But I don't remember really hearing anyone who, when this was like a big story, I don't remember anyone sort of giving him any credence there. So I don't really think, I don't know. It's not a huge discussion because he's obviously wrong, really.
Well, to me, it just seems like someone who doesn't really understand video games. Which is surely fair enough.
I would even say that his understanding of art is a little bit unusual because, again, he's saying that it's a term of quality, like it's a commentary on how good something is. Like if I showed you a really shit painting, you can't say that's not art because it is art. It's just not good art. I just think it seems like a misunderstanding of how most people understand the term art. He just has a very sort of obscure definition of it. And yeah, by his definition, he could say games aren't art, but that's not the definition that everyone else is using. So it's just sort of...
He also... He noted that video games present a sort of option that would ruin other forms of art. Like, he said, a version of Romeo and Juliet that would allow for an optional happy ending would weaken the artistic expression of the original work. What do you make of that?
Say it again.
He said that the idea of a version of Romeo and Juliet that would allow for an optional happy ending, so basically that you have a choice in what you do in video games, weakens the artistic expression of the original work.
Well, again, what he's saying there is that a shit bad option isn't good, but most games don't have shit bad options. Most games with different endings are written for those different endings, and they're better because of that. Like he's saying that it's equivalent to saying like this film wouldn't be as good if it's equivalent to saying Romeo and Juliet wouldn't be as good if Romeo was dressed as a stormtrooper. But that doesn't mean that stormtroopers don't work in Star Wars. It's a totally different... It's like taking one specific element and transferring it to somewhere where it's obviously not going to work. Like if Shakespeare had made a choose your own adventure play where Romeo and Juliet could have ended either way, I'm sure he would have put a lot of thought into it and made it work. It's not just having the element of choice doesn't devalue art in any way.
I think people want to compare far too much.
Yeah.
Like
comparing film to games.
Does it matter?
No, yeah.
Like it is art because it's an expression of like skill and vision and creativity.
Yeah.
Obviously it is. But does it matter if it is compared to films or art, or how many shit films are there out there? Yeah, you can go, oh well, look at this Citizen Kane, it's such a beautifully shot, perfect piece of cinematic art. But now I can go look at The Hangover 2 and go, well, this is just brass bullshit.
Yeah.
And surely there's the same with games, there's the same with theatre and music and everything.
Yeah.
Surely there are good and bad of everything.
Yeah.
But because the natural progression isn't anywhere near on the same line, it's not going to be the same. It can never be compared.
Yeah.
That's where I stand as an outsider. I don't care. I have no say or opinion in it whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't. If someone goes, video games aren't art, I'm not going to be like, oh, well,
ouch.
I remember when Facebook added the ability to add your favourite films, music and television shows.
Yeah.
I remember having a conversation with someone who was up in arms that you couldn't add your favourite game. Like there wasn't a game section.
Yeah.
And then suddenly there was.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't care. People feel like there needs to be comparison and there needs to be a genre of its own. It needs to be
It has
something.
to be on the same level as other things, yeah.
But it's not. And things don't have to be on the same level. It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, I suppose so.
To me, I don't care.
Yeah.
Everything advances at its own rate and does different things and goes off different tangents. So why should it all be equal?
Yeah, I agree. It's not. You shouldn't sort of try to homogenise everything.
Yeah. I don't know, that's just what I think.
Yeah.
Whether it's right or not, I've no idea. But
yeah, I do agree. Yeah. It's not really. Doesn't really work to sort of compare everything to everything else because things are just naturally different. What else have we written down here to talk about?
Gaming in society.
The perception of games in society has changed over time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It used to be for nerds and kids.
Well, there's that stereotypical gamer.
Yeah.
You were either a kid playing cartoony kids games, or you were a nerd playing like type this. You know
Zork.
Yeah. Maybe. Yes or no.
Yeah.
But why is that changed?
What
What would you say the stereotypical gamery type person is anyway? Because that's
stereotypical
also
gamer,
changed as well.
I suppose now, just sort of a moody, grumpy teenager who feels entitled to everything and feels like their opinion is better than everyone else's. Snobby.
Because
spurgy.
originally you had the sort of not older, but sort of grown-up bloke living either on his own or in his like parents' basement.
Yeah.
Fat, nerdy, you know, liked cheese-based crisps.
Smelly, yeah.
Smelly, maybe bearded, maybe wearing an ironic T-shirt.
Got a carpal tunnel thing on his wrist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's funny. Yeah, you know, slightly long, greasy hair.
Yeah.
But that's changed now. Well, those people do exist and have always existed. Stereotypes for a reason. I think the stereotype that I experience a lot of the most, especially being a sports fan, are those sort of lad gamers that like drink beer and play
bros.
Yeah,
bros and lads.
Play FIFA, and then if you lose by this many goals, you owe me a sandwich, and you lose by this many, you have to write an apology on my wall, and it's all like, it's true.
Is there a lot of that going on?
Have you ever seen people apologising for FIFA games on people's wall?
No.
The rule is if you lose by 5
like
goals,
a forfeit.
Yeah, a forfeit. So basically,
you have to apologise.
You see on Facebook, so you see elaborate ones like, dear blah blah, your Uruguay team really put my defence to the blah blah, and people go really in. Basically, the longer it is and the more in depth it is, the more likes it will get, and the more people go, oh, that was funny. It is a thing.
I just wouldn't do that. I wouldn't adhere to the forfeit. I'd piss in the face of gambling, and I'd say fuck you.
But that's a big thing. The whole lad rules and bantery gaming. But I think there is it's different stereotypes for different sections of society.
I think that aspect of it comes from the fact that multiplayer games is so big now.
So popular.
And gaming can be a very social thing nowadays.
Well, if you look back at old sort of, I don't know, teen comedies from a few years ago, the stereotypical gamer would usually be like in dimly lit rooms, playing on his own with a headset.
Yeah.
Which is just not the case. It doesn't have to be the case anymore.
Well, I think I've thought about this before, and I think what sets a nerd or a geek or whatever you want to call that type of person apart from most other people, is that they care less about what people think of them. So I think a lot of people 10, 15 years ago
Yeah.
would have seen video games and thought, oh, that looks great, but I'm not going to play it because of the social stigma.
Social stigma.
But then the types of people who would have played it despite the social stigma are nerds and geeks. Because those sorts of people are always the people who are doing things that have stigmas attached to them, but are fun anyway. Like, they're the people who are sort of having fun despite what people might think of them. Reading comics, going to Comic-Con, dressing up, doing things that you just laugh at and just say that's ridiculous, but they're doing them anyway. And I think that's why gaming has always been big with children and nerds, is because those are the two groups of people who don't care about what people think of them.
For the most part.
For the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone cares what people think of them.
Yeah.
But less so. Like, there are some people who just naturally have less of an interest in other people's opinions of them.
And there is those extremes of gaming, like Comic-Con and those things. I don't know if they're bigger than they were, but they're massive events.
Yeah.
And people go and people all dress up.
It's
and
because nerd culture has become
nerd culture is massive, but you still get the die-hard nerds, which were just nerds in the day, who are now like the uber nerds. Yeah. Whereas it's sort of cool to be a nerd now.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not sure why. I don't know what changed in gaming.
I think it's because it's always been... It's always... Like, games have always been something that's just inherently very fun. So it was bound to catch on eventually. And it happened to belong to that culture. So that's the culture that grew out of it. Nerds happened to latch onto gaming and make it their own. So gaming and nerds were sort of intrinsically linked. And then when the mainstream saw gaming and said, we want that as well, then with that they took a lot of nerd culture and a lot of sort of video gamey culture. And not just with gaming, I mean, there's a lot of other things as well. I mean, you could go into... I'm sure there's a lot of social sciencey stuff that you could go into about why people are more into nerdy stuff nowadays.
I've noticed even in my lifetime, when I first sort of stopped playing games, I suppose, I felt like I was in the majority, that I didn't play a lot of games. Maybe I'd occasionally play. Yeah. But now, when I'm like, I don't really own a console.
You're like in the minority.
People are like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why? So I'm roles of reverse sort of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe 20 years ago, if you're like, I own an Atari, people would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But
especially
now,
if you were like in your 20s or 30s.
But now, if you don't own a console and you don't play games, you're not really even if you're not up to date with games, people are like, okay, why? Yeah. Which is interesting, I suppose.
It's just become a part of pop culture, hasn't it? It's become a big thing, and I think a lot of that is the fact that the industry has been so profitable that they've been able to put a lot of money into marketing.
An influx of money always helps any industry.
Because now, look 15 years ago, if you see an advert on TV for a game, it'd be quite unusual.
Yeah.
I mean, there were adverts on TV for games, but they were less frequent and...
But mainstream attention for the gaming industry is just massive.
Yeah. Now. Especially like we were saying earlier with YouTube. All of YouTube is basically dedicated to games now.
Well, that's the world that we live in. It's so much more connected.
Yeah.
Like, games are available to everybody. Whereas 20 years ago, there were a lot of games, not as many as there are now, but they'll be quite orientated on one person. Now, whatever age you are, there's games.
Yeah.
Whatever you have, everyone has something you can play a game on.
Yeah.
If it's just a phone, there are games you can play on your phone. Quite complex ones. People PC game is a huge thing. Yeah. Consoles, I have a phone, iPods, you can play on anything. And so, if everyone can play, it just becomes a normal thing. Everyone plays something or has this. And
it's very easy access.
Yeah.
It's very
we all have access to gaming. I don't know. And there's more games aimed, I think, now at adults.
Yeah, there are
than
a lot
ever
more
before.
Yeah, definitely. I think in the past there have always been games aimed at adults, but now in the past, there were games that were aimed at grown-ups.
Yeah.
They were aimed at sort of social recluse grown-ups.
Yeah.
But now there are games that you can legitimately play and talk about in the workplace, and
it's fine.
Yeah, you're not the stigma is sort of starting to go away.
Where do you stand on the sort of debate about video games and violence and classification and?
Well,
a lot of these topics you could do a whole show on,
yeah.
so we're only briefly glossing over it, but it's a debate that comes around every now and again.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose the debate is that playing violent video games will make you violent somehow, and it's just that I think the reason that always comes up is because it seems so true.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like it would be the case.
Yeah.
But every time someone's tried to study it and looked into it,
it's just not the
they've
case.
never found that it's the case.
Well, I remember it was very recently, I believe someone abducted and killed a kid.
Yeah.
And it was the fact that he'd looked at like child porn, basically.
Right.
And they were like, why are Google, etc., whoever, not clamping down on more of this? Well, A, it's ridiculously difficult.
Yeah.
But then they just slipped in that from what they proved, 8% of people who looked at whether it's child porn or sort of obscure violent pornography
Also
just
happen to play games.
well, no, this is nothing to do with games, but they just were no more or less likely to do anything than anybody else.
Yeah.
So it's just making a mountain out of a molehill.
Oh, so you're saying that most people who...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the very obscure end of like people looking at a grotesque like child pornography.
Yeah.
So people who just go, oh, I'll just shoot someone. That's probably even slimmer. Think
Yeah.
how massive games are.
Again, the fact that, like you were saying a minute ago, almost everyone plays violent video games.
Yeah.
Or has played a violent video game. So if you point to any murderer nowadays,
Yeah.
you can guarantee that they will have played a game that involves murder. And you just can't use that as a
The thing is,
as a
murder,
barometer. Because
violent crime is not a new thing.
No.
Neither scapegoating.
No.
And so with every new thing that comes along, people will use that as a scapegoat. It's just how life is. But people killed before there were games, before there were movies, before there was music, violent music. People just, that's what people are like. It's the nature of humanity, is that some people do bad things.
People have always jumped onto the new medium, whatever it is, as well.
Yeah.
Like comic books in the 50s was, oh, maybe a bit earlier than that, I'm not sure, I wasn't alive.
Yeah.
But there was a huge thing about comic books leading to violence, and people who read comic books are violent and stuff like that. Probably a bit late in the 50s as well. It was like a huge thing, and you don't hear about that now at all because it's patently obvious that it's not the case. Films, people have always said that films lead to violence, and now it's video games, and I'm sure that'll die out eventually.
Of course, for the odd case, it is true.
Yeah. I also don't just want to flat out deny it, because a lot of people just deny it as a knee-jerk reaction because they're offended by it. But
there are people who try anything they see on television. There's only so much protection you can do.
Yeah.
Something like Jackass, how many warnings are there at the beginning of every segment?
Yeah.
You know, these are professionals, in quotation, don't do it at home. And yet people will still do it. You can only cover your back so much. And that's the reason these games are rated 18R, whatever, M. Is it mature?
Yeah.
Is that they're meant for mature 18 plus audiences, like films. However, name a person that hasn't seen an 18 movie before they're 18 or played an 18 game before they were 18. Media classification doesn't work. Yeah. Because, well, A, the internet now, but also in the past because parents are stupid and weak. And the fact that, that's just what people like. If people nag along the majority of the time, most people just give in eventually. No one's going to be like, well, you're going to have to wait until you're 18. There are very few parents that will do that. Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure how the classifications work for video games, but I know that the MPAA in America, which is the people who rate American films, is a board of about 12 people who just get together and watch films and decide basically on their own opinion.
There's a whole documentary. Have you ever seen this movie?
Yeah. That's where I'm getting my information. Yeah. It's a bit outdated,
but that's, again, it's the subjective opinion of
like a few people.
Of a board, basically, just a committee. And while, it works for the most part, it's a very broken system in some ways, because there's the whole, if your movie's rated R or something, then you can't get the funding, or you can't get the advertising for this, and then you have to cut this and that, and it's, I don't know if it's the same with games, but
sort of. I mean, a lot of video games are 18s compared to or like mature or whatever, compared to films. Like you rarely getting a film that's rated 18 or
18,
mature or
that's
whatever
true.
that's a big blockbuster and that's released widely. You
Yeah.
rarely even get a film that's rated 15. That's
Well,
sort of
a prime example of that, if you know I don't know if it's out yet, World War Z.
yeah,
It's based on a book
yeah,
that's quite graphic,
mm,
and the original screenplay, I believe, for that was like an M or an R17 or whatever it's called, and they've cut it down to a PG-13, which is like a 12 here, for to cram as many audiences
yeah,
in,
yeah.
to sort of milk the cash cow. But games do they not do that? Do they not cut?
Not really, because
If not, why not?
I mean, I suppose they might do to a certain extent.
But you're right,
But
there are
the
a
thing-
lot more 18 games than
yeah.
18 films at the cinema.
The thing is, if you want to buy a game that's rated 18 and you're 12 years old,
Yeah.
just pop onto Amazon and you can get it. There's no ticket. There's no one saying, "Can I see some ID?"
Yeah, that's true.
Like if you want to go and see a film,
Can't you do that with DVD? I suppose.
yeah, but there's no. I mean, there's no.
Can't go to the cinema.
Yeah, there's no sort of active element of sort of going out and.
Yeah,
And
that's
a
true.
lot
I've
of
not thought of
retailers won't ID you either for games. I mean, some will, but quite a lot will. But it's less of a clamped down upon thing.
that. Is that a good thing or a bad thing though?
Oh,
Because as a kid, I always was like, well, I'm mature enough, let me play, let me do whatever I like. But there are people who aren't, definitely. But then there are grown-ups who are fucking morons.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't trust.
I mean, it's always going to be a broad rule of thumb. Of course, you can never say that every person over the
Yeah.
age of 18 is going to be mature enough to handle this or whatever, and you can never say that every person under the age of whatever is going to be
Yeah.
too immature. But to a certain extent, especially as games get more realistic
yeah.
in terms of graphics and stuff, I suppose. You know, you might not want 8-year-olds playing certain video games, but then
And I always use the example of the fact that San Andreas, when that came out, we were like 10.
yeah,
And we played it together and we were like, oh, well, we're 20 between us.
yeah,
And that was funny and us all laugh and play and whatever. But if you play that now, it's pretty tame, really.
it's sort of cartoonish.
It's, yeah, you should, they swear a bit, but if you just mute it,
Mm.
you're just shooting people, it doesn't look realistic.
Yeah.
Whereas if you play, like you were saying, Grand Theft Auto 4,
Yeah.
it's very sort of sadistic in
Yeah.
the fact that it's, oh, leave me alone, please. And it's much more realistic.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had a 10-year-old, I'd be like, yeah, go on then. Throw that right on.
Yeah, I think especially with the GTA series, you sort of, when GTA 4 came out, a lot of people were surprised because you feel like you know what you're getting because it's sort of comic violence and very funny and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of jokes. But with Grand Theft Auto 4, it was more serious and...
Well, I think the context of games, I don't know how much it is taken into consideration, but I think that's almost more important than the violence or the swearing itself.
Yeah.
Because if you have a game like Saints Row 3, I've never played it, but you say it's quite cartoony and
yeah.
ridiculous and funny.
Yeah.
But then if you have a game that's very
serious,
and dark and sadistic,
like that Last of Us game that I was talking about earlier.
oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think there was a big. I remember when Manhunt came out. There was a big thing about that.
Because it was about snuff films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a lot darker than just a guy running around beating people with baseball bats.
I never played it, but that was made by Rockstar, the same people who made GTA.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine that if we go back and play it, we'll be like, well, this is ridiculous and cartoonish. And
but at the time,
I don't know if it had a sense of humour or what. I don't really know a lot about that game because I was too young to play it really. But
it was meant to be pretty.
I don't know. I think people have historically, at least, people have given games too much credit. Like games made in like 2004 or whatever weren't really ever going to have the power to psychologically affect people in a very decent, impactful way.
Mm-hmm.
Because the writing wasn't there, the graphics wasn't there, the acting wasn't there. None of it was really good enough, there enough. But now,
it definitely is.
Yeah, it's more to a point where a lot of money is being poured into things, and things have a better potential for affecting people.
Do games get re-released in the same way that you'd release a film to mark an anniversary,
Yeah.
would you re-release like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah. People sort of. I mean,
Do you
the thing about games is that they're always available.
Yeah.
So you're never going to get like with movies, they can re-release them in the cinema, and that's a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
But with games, again, that's not an element of it. Like you can always really buy most games.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are sort of anniversary editions of games and stuff like that.
Does anything change rating wise? It's in the same way that some.
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Like
I don't think they re-rate games.
I've got the original Grand Theft Auto on PS1.
Yeah.
Where it's like overhead, bird's eye view, and that was an 18.
Rated an 18, yeah.
But it wouldn't be. Surely there's nothing
No,
that you
yeah.
could show on like a PS1 that would rank that highly.
No, probably not. Because back then that was at the top end of what they could do.
But now it's not.
Relatively, it was an 18, but now it's not. So yeah, I don't think that they re-rate games. I'm not entirely sure.
But
I've never heard of that happening.
There's a film called Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Yeah.
And I had that. Well, I say I had it. Someone in my family had it on video.
Yeah.
And it was an 18, and they really loved it. Great film. And so I was like, it got lost or broken or something. So I was like, oh, I'll buy it for them on DVD, and it was like a PG. But it's like 50 years later, but I don't know. I don't know if that happens with games, but you say it doesn't really.
I've never heard of it. It might do. I'm not sure. I mean, like you said, people wouldn't consider the older games to be as like a game that was rated 18 like 15 years ago. No one would really treat that as an 18 now. And especially since the only way you're really going to get an 18 game that was released that long ago is either pre-owned or like on Steam or something. It's going to be via the internet, where you're not really carded or anything. It's not really as much of an issue. There are some places where it's more of an issue though, like in Australia apparently.
Yeah.
It's huge, like the idea of things being rated. Like the ratings are really harsh in Australia. Like a lot of games are rated 18 in Australia, that everywhere else are rated like 15 or 12 or whatever.
Why is that?
I don't know. The ratings board is just more
stringent.
Yeah. But they're well known for it. So it depends where you are in the world as well.
I always thought rating like films or television or games would be a fun job. It'd be a difficult job, but it'd be a fun job.
It'd just be so much like responsibility, because you're condemning films that, like, if you rate a film not mature, but whatever it is, R in America, then you're sort of condemning that film to do badly in the box office. So you've got to, I don't know, it'd be a difficult thing to sort of weigh up. I wouldn't want to do it. I would feel very underqualified to do it.
Yeah.
But the people who do it now
are underqualified.
So I don't know. It's a whole thing. It's a very difficult problem. Yeah.
I think I don't know how you would best change it. I'm sure filmmakers and game makers have a opinion, but I have no idea what the best course of action would be.
No. I don't know. I mean, I suppose that in order to release a game, I don't really know. I suppose you have to have a rating on a game to release it.
Yeah.
But having said that, I'm not sure if that's the case. Like a lot of games that are released independently.
Yeah.
Minecraft, for example, the biggest independent game ever, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's rated. I'm going to look into it, because they just sell that on their website. They're their own distribution platform, so I don't think that they have to put a rating on it.
Well, surely.
I mean, if they were to, it would obviously be E for everyone or whatever, because it's so tame. But
well, surely if it's your own product and you're selling it yourself,
then you don't have to. But I mean, I'm wondering if there are any laws in place.
Well, I honestly have no idea. But surely the problem is with like ratings, like films and games, is not the rating itself.
Yeah.
It's the fact that the media or the advertising, whatever, refuses to market R films, like 18 films.
Yeah.
Like we've had the conversation before about Zack and Miri make a porno.
Yeah.
It's the fact that a simple word
made it impossible to
market or put anywhere.
Yeah. Same thing. Kevin Smith again. Same thing happened with Cop Out. He originally wanted to call it A Couple of Dicks.
Yeah.
But they had to change it at the last minute because they wouldn't run adverts for it.
But I find that thing very tame and weird.
I think that's
a very American thing.
Yeah, it is. But I think also a lot of advertising for films and stuff takes place in very traditional mediums because it's a traditional medium itself.
Yeah.
If you advertise a film, you're going to advertise it in magazines, on TV, etc. But if you advertise a game,
the majority of people would be unhappy if you had the word porno in an advert.
Well, no one would be unhappy, but one person complaining is enough to sort of fuck up a lot of things.
Well, yeah, it is, but that in itself is weird to me.
Yeah, it's weird to me as well.
The fact that we live in a country of 50, 60 million, America 300 million.
Yeah.
And the fact that a handful of complaints sends the world crazy.
I think the whole idea of ratings and stuff is very weird and sort of outdated, and it'll probably have a very diminutive future. It probably won't really. The culture of rating things will probably die out of it. Not necessarily completely.
Yeah.
But
we've already seen changes happening. You've already seen the 12A came in.
Yeah.
Which was for Spider-Man, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And that was weird at the time. I remember being about 12 or 13 at the time. Doesn't really bother me. But judging by the internet, judging by the fact that you can stream and download and get pretty much anything anyway, if you know what you're doing, surely there'll become a time where you just have to get consent from somebody, or you just have to be like, yeah, okay, we'll give it up. If you want to come in, then you're going to see it somewhere. Surely cinemas would be happier to get money off someone than not, and then have them download. I don't know.
Yeah,
it seems like a broken system.
It is. I think it's just censorship, isn't it?
I don't know which is the. But there's a reason for censorship.
Yeah.
Of some things.
But in America, it's the FCC, isn't it?
The FCC won't let me be. So let me see.
And they censor.
Try to shut me down on MTV.
Swearing and sex and stuff like that.
Feels so crazy without me. Yeah. That was me just spitting a bit of Eminem.
That's great. Just laying down a few bars. They censor things like swearing and sex and violence, and that's because when all of that stuff was put in place, those are the things that people found offensive. But now, no one's really offended by
swearing.
If you can find someone who's offended by swearing, I guarantee that they're over a certain age.
Yeah, 60.
Like most people our age or older than us, before the age of about 70, aren't offended by any of that shit.
No.
So that's I can't see that really being a big thing in the future.
Well, that's the whole debate in itself, that swearing is so tame these days. The biggest, the most obscene swearing is cunt.
Yeah.
But I must have said cunt tens of thousands of times in my life.
Yeah.
It's from playgrounds from an early age, just thrown about.
Yeah.
And it's not offensive. Like we were saying the other week, the swear words of our day are like your racial slurs.
Yeah. But I don't know how big swearing is outside of the UK and America. America, swearing is a huge thing.
They see it as ridiculous compared to us.
How do you mean they see it as ridiculous?
It's only really something like HBO that you'll get swearing on.
Yeah.
If you drop any kind of swear word, they go to sleep.
Yeah.
Whereas here, you can get something like shameless. It's just riddled with, our TV is just full of swearing.
But then you go anywhere else in the world and their TV is far more riddled with swearing than ours. I don't think there's any other country really.
Is that true? I don't know.
I mean, any other language really, to say, that really cares about swearing as much as English. I think it's a very English thing. I think most people in the world are aware of America's fetish for swear words and English people's fetish for swear words and see it as very weird.
Yeah.
And as we become more connected globally with the internet and everything, I think that influence is going to be greater and greater. And
it is weird, the whole swearing thing, is that they try and repress it, especially at schools, and it's strange. People are always like, "Oh, don't swear." Why?
It just seems like it's a. I mean, I don't really know. I don't really know how other languages treat swearing. I know that there are swear words in most languages, but I don't think that they're really. I don't think there are many languages where swear words are really taboo.
Well, each culture has their different taboos.
Yeah. I think our culture, one of the taboos is language, and that's already dying out now, and it's a very weird thing to look at from a third-party point of view.
Well, if you look at cinema elsewhere, I'm just using cinema because it's the one I know the most about. But if you look at something like Bollywood, Bollywood is a huge, massive, probably billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
But India's still quite conservative, still for the most part religious.
Yeah.
And so you won't get like nudity like you'll get in pretty much every film here.
Yeah.
But you probably get violence and swearing just the same. But we're quite happy to just get a tit out.
Yeah.
Whereas there, that would be like an extreme thing. So I suppose everyone has their.
I suppose most taboos historically have come from religion, like.
Yeah, definitely.
Like the reason that you can't show people being promiscuous sexually on TV is because the Bible says that sex shouldn't be recreational. But now, as religion is becoming less and less important, and especially as our generations get older and become in the positions of power, it's just going to be that is no longer going to be the taboo, and the taboos at the minute come from religion, but in the future they're probably going to come from logic and pragmatism. Like racism is a big taboo for us, because we logically understand that it hurts people's feelings and stuff like that.
Homophobia, all that.
Stuff. Paedophilia, stuff like that. Those are going to be the only taboos, really. I think. Like, it's no longer going to be.
You can already sense that in a way. If someone makes a racial slur, even if it's in a sort of jokey way, you're already sort of. It's much easier to fuck up a racial slur joke than it is to fuck up just a heavy swear word joke.
Maybe it'll go the other way though. Maybe the generations that our progeny, maybe they'll be very embarrassed by us and they'll want to return to being like proper and stuff like that. Because you see it, if you look through history, you always see this fluctuation of like people being very conservative and then very liberal. Like if you look into the 60s,
that's true.
People were very, very liberal and very.
Well, you rebel against something, don't you? That's where a lot of it comes from. If you have an oppressor, or on the other hand, a very free, open society. And people want either no rules or lots of rules. People are very unhappy when they're sort of allowed to mainly do what they want to do.
So maybe because we want no rules, maybe the people who come after us will want lots of rules.
Loads of them.
Yeah, they'll be very conservative. Maybe, I don't know.
How edited are games?
How edited?
Yeah, like we're talking about certification, etc. Do scenes and angles is a very wrestling term, but do they get cut and do things get changed? I don't. In the same way that you'd have a film, like, well, to get it into here, you need to remove one dick.
A big example of that is that in San Andreas, there was this whole mechanic where you would take home dates and have sex with them. And that was removed from the final game because certification and stuff like that. But then, like hackers or modders or whatever found the files and sort of brought it back, and that was a big thing. That's one example, but I can't really think of many others for like certification reasons.
Well, here, because I was looking at Manhunt as we were talking about earlier. The game was suspended when it was refused classification in the UK, Italy and Ireland, and it was given an adults only rating, AO, which I've never heard of, in the United States. So in response to these ratings, Rockstar edited the game, blurring the screen during executions and removing the scoring system where players were rewarded for particularly brutal killings. The edited version was given an M and released. So I suppose that's a...
Yeah. That's also Rockstar again.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's as big a thing in the games industry as it is in...
Well, I suppose because there are much more games that are 18 and everyone's happy with that.
Yeah.
There's no need to get it into a certain... I've never heard of an adults only rating.
Yeah, it's like the A and O.
AO, yeah.
When I think of that, I think of Manhunt because that's the only game that I know of to have ever been given that rating, and that was like a big story back in the day, whenever it was. like 2004 or whatever.
Yeah. I've got a list of products that are AO rated, if you like.
Yeah, read it.
All nude cyber. All nude glamour.
There's going to be a lot of these games, or
these are these are games. It's like on a platform.
There's a whole sort of genre of games, especially in Japan, called dating sims.
I've heard about these, yeah.
And in Japan, there's a lot of very sort of pornographic ones. And there's one that I've heard of, where you play as a woman.
Yeah.
And you go to a school for pigeons.
Right.
And you date and have sex with the pigeons.
Right. That sounds fantastic.
And that's the sort of premise of it. And that's the thing that people play.
Japan is mental.
Yeah. It's really weird. There's a lot of porn games in Japan. I don't think that's a big thing here.
Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy Director's Cut. There's a lot of like all nude porn games, obviously. There's a DVD. Flirtomatic, a mobile phone game. Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas, originally rated M, changed to AO following discovery of Hot Coffee minigame. That's what you were just talking about. Leisure Suit Larry, Magna Cum Laude, uncut and uncensored.
Leisure Suit Larry used to be like a really good spoofy video game, adventure game.
Wasn't it in like I've seen like screenshots of it.
It was Sierra, which was sort of I think it was anyway, the rival to LucasArts. You know, like Monkey Island, that type of game.
Yeah.
It used to be that sort of thing, where you play this like dweeby, annoying man who thought he was like sexy and stuff, and then it became.
It's porny.
Like porny, and well, not that porny. It was marketed as being porny, but it was.
Well, that's what
it was
do.
shit. It was like
everyone markets things as overtly sexual. Like the majority of
or
these,
whatever there is.
These games I'm looking at, old.
Yeah.
Most of them are on like Windows, PC, mobile phone, Atari, Mac.
They all sound like just obscure sort of.
They're obscure. Like
games.
Some of them are obviously Japanese. Tokimi Check-in.
Are there any well-known games there?
Well, the only one is that I know of is Grand Theft Auto. Flirtomatic, Hooked Messenger. Oh, that's a user's interact, which is sexting. Manhunt 2, like you say. Playboy Mansion Private Party on Windows PC.
Yeah, these are all just sort of porn games.
Rian Rouge. Thrill Kill. Tokimi Check-in. Wet the Sexy Empire, which sounds great.
But the thing is, as we say, like, ratings always look very stringent when you look back.
Yeah.
Like the 18s of back then are very tame today.
Yeah.
So both of those adults-only ratings for GTA and Manhunt wouldn't get that now.
No, not at all.
Especially with the GTA thing, which was
one scene.
Well, it was if you ever see it, it's just they sort of the animation is them having sex.
Yeah.
But they didn't bother to retexture the models, so they both still had clothes on.
They sort
of banged together.
Dry humping.
Yeah. And it's very sort of cartoony and stupid. And the voice actor is like, "Oh yeah, bitch," and stuff. It's just it's just a joke basically that they cut out.
Well, everything advances, but at the time, you're always like, well, in 20 years' time, people won't look back on this and be like, wow.
Yeah.
Whereas they will. Even today's games, probably.
Yeah. Well, except for anything. I mean, today's X is always going to look stupid in like 10, 20 years. Like today's fashion. I can't pinpoint what today's fashion is.
Exactly. I was having this conversation with a family member the other day because they found out the college we went to's leaving photo, which we didn't even have.
I don't have that.
But they left in like 1989 or something. Well, it's only not that long ago, 20 years.
Yeah.
Nothing. And they said they all look fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
But like, what? When I'm 40 and I look back at leaving college, am I going to go, what the fuck were we all doing?
Jeans and a t-shirt, what?
Jeans? Oh, what?
Yeah.
Like
if I remember in like the early 2000s, back then I couldn't pinpoint a sort of, I thought about this even when I was like 12, I couldn't pinpoint a fashion or anything. But if you look back to it now, you sort of can.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Definitely.
I mean, the 2000s have been very bland.
But especially if you look back, say, the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, the 90s, like...
Loud. It was clothes were very loud and bright.
Grunge, a lot of grunge, or...
The other end of that.
The other end, yeah. Like Spice Girls.
You had weird hair. Everyone had weird hair.
Yeah.
No one had short hair. Everyone either had, like, weird cuts.
It was very post-80s, 90s was.
Yeah, it was.
It was very...
Yeah.
It was like people thought they were fully out of the 80s. But they
weren't, no. But then people are already sort of harking back to the 90s, like, oh, that was great, that was a great time.
Yeah, people always will, won't they? Have you ever seen people walking around with those T-shirts that say like, "Oh, I'm a '90s kid," stuff like that? And then people like our age, like I spent most of my, well, not most of my life, but a good decade in the '90s. I can't really remember any of it.
It was all right. You just, I'm not fond of any previous time. I'm sort of alive now. I don't go, oh, well, the 90s are amazing. 98, great year.
Yeah. Nostalgia's good though. I do
You have nostalgia for things and events, but I don't think for a period. I don't have.
Yeah.
I'm not old enough to be like, oh well, the 60s or the 50s.
Yeah.
But then, isn't that harking back to your youth?
Yeah, it sort of is.
So that's really just nostalgia for being better.
The golden
at things.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm in that right now. I'm rocking this all the time. And who doesn't want to be doing this?
I know, yeah.
Pretty much 24/7.
It's crazy.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we'll look back on the 2010s. What would you call this?
What are we even called?
I think the 2010s.
Yeah, 2010s.
And you'll say, God, look at all the podcasts and all the YouTubes.
Yeah.
The internet was so free back then.
Yeah, the internet was so free.
If you look back 10 years, the internet, people always say it was like the Wild West. And it was very...
Yeah. I remember when I first started using the
restrictions.
internet, and it was just
Beheading
bafflingly
videos and
incredible.
porn.
Yeah. And you can still get those, obviously. Lively. But you have to sort of seek them out.
Yeah.
They don't just like appear.
Yeah.
It's like that click here for beheading.
Yeah.
11-year-old, yes.
Yeah. In the 2000s, the internet was just a lot of racism in a sort of jokey way.
Yeah.
But that's not really big anymore because the internet now is a handful of websites.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like Reddit,
It's
YouTube, Facebook.
It's run by the majority of massive global websites that are very heavy on censorship.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on piracy?
Piracy?
Yeah.
In general, or for video games?
Well, we'll say in general, then move on to in video games, because I know people who have differing opinions.
Yeah.
Depending on what it is that you're pirating.
I mean, I suppose it is different. Like, pirating films is essentially different from pirating, say, a book. But I don't think there's a lot of people get very sort of... This is, again, the stereotype of gamers being very snobby and entitled.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of gamers get very up in arms about video game piracy. Say, oh, you're stealing from developers, that's evil. Yeah, I'll download films, but I won't download games. And it's not all that different. It's the same principle. You still... If you believe that you're stealing from video game developers, then you should really hold that principle for films as well.
In my eyes, you steal from everybody that you pirate, but you only really steal it if you're ever going to buy it.
Yeah, that's true.
And in the way that the most recent thing that I pirated, I can't say it, was Kesha's Warrior album. I'm not going to nip down to HMV and ever buy that album.
Yeah.
But I'll download it for free, and because of it, I will watch more of her stuff.
Yeah.
I'll visit her pages more
Yeah.
often. I'll have more internet interactions with her products and her as a person.
Her brand.
So surely that's a good thing for that person. The only time piracy is wrong is if you would have bought it, but you just get it for free. And even then, I don't think it really makes that much of a difference.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It depends. I mean,
the way I see it is that people disagree with me, and again, this is a whole argument in itself, and people will call me out for it, but everyone is doing better than me.
Yeah.
Everything that I pirate has been made, or stars people who are much richer than I will ever be. So, fuck them.
Yeah, I suppose so. It depends on what it is. I mean, that argument holds true for films, but then people aren't really concerned about stealing from Brad Pitt or whatever. People are concerned about stealing from like the key grip or the caterer.
Yeah, but those people don't not get paid because I pirate it.
Yeah. I mean, there is a big argument that, as you were saying just now, that pirating is free advertising. And like I've noticed that, and everyone else has noticed as well, I suppose, that films now, film piracy is like really popular now.
Yeah.
Like more popular than it's ever been because it's more easy than it's ever been. And films take home more money at the box office now than they ever have done before as well.
Yeah.
So there's a correlation there. You can't necessarily link them, but there's certainly a correlation.
Well, I think about it. If I didn't have the ability or the opportunity to pirate media as a whole, I've never pirated a game, I don't think, so I can't really talk about it. But I simply wouldn't consume as much media because I don't have the money to go to the cinema to see every film that I think I might like, or to buy box sets of things that I think I might like.
Exactly.
I'm just in that situation. I can't. I'd love to be able to.
Yeah.
And I always say to myself, if I have enough money, I'll support the things I like.
Yeah.
I do it a lot. Obviously, I like a lot of wrestling. I download a lot of wrestling torrents.
Yeah.
I watch like pay-per-views for free and stuff because I don't have the money to buy them. But I always think if at some point in my life I'm in a comfortable, stable position,
then you'll do it.
I'll buy them. Yeah.
I mean, people.
And I do buy things I'm interested in. Eventually, you have to really sell it to me.
Yeah.
But I will eventually fork out some money for it.
I think, if anything, really, the whole culture of piracy has brought the fact that you need to support people to people's attention. Like 20 years ago, when you bought a film ticket, you didn't think of that as supporting the studio or supporting the director or whatever. But now that's very much in the public, like it's public knowledge that you have a responsibility to support the artist that you appreciate.
People that you like. And you notice it more, especially a lot with podcasting. I listen to a lot of podcasts from various people.
Yeah.
People who have their own networks, Kevin Smith, stuff like wrestling stuff, like Cabana. And anything that they do, I'm then more intrigued by because I consume more of their free medium.
Yeah.
So if you then transfer that onto their other things, the more I consume of them and the more I like, and the more likely I am to want to see your next film, come and see you at your stand-up, watch you wrestle, etc. Because I know I'm tight with money now anyway, and if I couldn't see it, well then you've got no chance.
Yeah.
Surely you'd like me to get something and possibly then reimburse some money to you, rather than just be like, well, I can't.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say something, but I can't remember what it is.
I don't. Yeah, piracy is fine to me.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. It's sort of, for me, with depending on what medium it is someone really entitled anyway to demand money for art? Like, if, let's say, because now it's such an obvious thing. Like, we live in a capitalist world where obviously you have to charge to do anything, and you have to pay to do anything. But is that even right? We just assume that that's morally correct. But let's say you go back a few hundred years. Let's say Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa and said 20 quid to see it. Would that be okay? And if he did do that, would it be a famous painting, or would no one have paid and would it have died? Like, it sort of devalues art a little bit, because like I was saying earlier on, that a good definition of art for me is that it's something that lives on its own, and its only purpose is its own aesthetics. It has no practical purpose. When you give art a practical purpose by saying it's putting food on my table, is that then devaluing art? It's a very big philosophical question, but
possibly it is, but I would say yes, it is. But
then also you want to be able to make a living. I do understand that practically it's necessary, but
it's necessary.
But in a way, like, we do podcasting, like, we don't get any money for this, and I would feel.
Are you not getting?
Are you?
Zabs is. Oh, she's.
I would feel weird saying, like, give me £1 each time you listen to the podcast or whatever, because I don't feel like it's worth that. I mean, yes, we put effort into it and stuff, and we put time into it.
Yeah.
But just because you put time and effort into it doesn't mean, like,
you deserve something.
You deserve money for it. If you want money, then go and do something else.
Well,
in a way, I think as well. On top of that, if the precedent was set that art doesn't deserve to be paid for, then a lot of people would stop doing it, and the only artists that would be left would be the people who are really, really into it,
passionate,
and really passionate and really good. So you'd sort of whittle out all the people who are into it for businesses. You'd get rid of the cash cows because there'd be no cash to milk. So it'd just be art. It'd be more pure without money. But again, I realise that that's not really practical, and the money is a necessary part of it. But you know,
I always think regarding piracy as well. If it's available to pirate, 99% of the time, then that person isn't struggling.
Yeah, I mean that's if it's well known enough to I suppose
have got enough seeds and leaks and people interested, then it's probably got enough people buying it.
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't know. I mean, on one hand, like anyone can put a torrent onto the internet, but then on the other hand, you are right. Like people are more likely to do it, and people are more likely to actually seed it and download it if it's well known. There was very recently there was a game called Game Dev Tycoon, which the conceit of this game is that it's. Have you ever played like a tycoon game, like a roller coaster tycoon, or?
I know of them.
Where you sort of set up a business and then
keep them running.
Make money and stuff on it.
Yeah.
Well, this was a game where you play a game developing company, however you phrase that, and you make virtual games and you make money off it and stuff like that. And the developers of this game, Game Dev Tycoon, put it on Pirate Bay themselves. Yeah. And pirates downloaded it. People downloaded it and found that in the game, it's difficult to word, but people who pirated it had their virtual games companies
go
tits up because there'd be virtual pirates pirating their games.
Oh right, yeah. So
it was a sort of ironic thing, yeah. But the thing that I didn't like, everyone was talking about this and everyone was saying like, oh look, how funny is this? How ironic! Take that, pirates. But this game, Game Dev Tycoon, is a rip-off of another game that was out for Android a few years ago called Game Dev Story, and it's like exactly the same. They've just changed the graphics and stuff like that.
Right.
And that no one really talked about that, but it was like a complete clone of this other game. So for me, like I understand that there's like an ironic justice element there, and that's quite nice for some people, and people like that. But the people doing it were sort of getting rich off someone, well, not getting rich, but making money off someone else's idea and someone else's work anyway. So it's sort of dishonest. I don't know. That was a big story recently though in game piracy.
I don't know what game pirate. Obviously, I'm not involved in that. I've never pirated a game ever. Not because I don't want to, so I never have.
Yeah.
So I don't know how big it is, how popular it is, but I would assume it's reasonably popular.
Well, it's very over-reported. It's much less popular than people think it is.
How do you go about torrenting like a PS3 game? Can you do it? Do you have to burn it to a disc?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure. I've never done it. But again, this is one of the reasons why it's less popular than people think it is, because it's so complicated to do it.
Yeah.
Like, pirating PC games is relatively easy to do.
Just download it and crack it.
Yeah. But with like console games, there's a whole other mess of shit. I mean, I've never done that. I don't know how to do it. Not because I'm above it, just because I never have.
Never, yeah. No, I'm not above it. I'm just saying.
But I'm sure it's very complicated and stuff. But I think with games, piracy is sort of important in a way because it allows people to play the older games that are no longer available.
Like emulators.
Yeah. Like, these games aren't really... If you buy a game that was made in like the 80s, you're not really giving money to the developer at that point.
No.
You're just giving money to whoever happens to be publishing that game. So you might as well pirate it because it's of historical significance if you're into games. And you're not stealing money from anyone by doing it.
It seems piracy as a whole is one of those crimes that is given so much more press than it should be.
Yeah, it's because it's so contentious. Like there's so much to debate about it. like you can't talk about it without getting into a philosophical discussion about what constitutes piracy. Is piracy okay? Because it's so sort of abstract and difficult to pin down, and it just gets pressed by virtue of being difficult to cover. You have to cover it more because it's hard to cover.
Yeah, but then the more you cover it, the more people will do it.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah,
it's the nature of the beast.
But the more people who do it, the more people are talking about the products that are being pirated, as we said.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like the guy, I can't remember who, but someone involved in the creation of Game of Thrones said that he credits the success of Game of Thrones to piracy.
Yeah.
Because it's so popular on like Pirate Bay and stuff. It's like one of the biggest shows on Pirate Bay.
Biggest downloaded show, I think.
That, like, that's the reason that so many people then buy the DVDs or get it on Netflix or watch it on HBO or whatever.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Even if you don't then go on to buy anything, the likelihood that you'll tweet it, Facebook it, tell it to a friend, talk about it.
That's very much one of those word of mouthy things, Game of Thrones. Like, I never watched it for the first season or two, and I'd hear people talking about it loads, and it would annoy me a little bit because I'd think this looks like it's shit, like Hobbits and shit. It's boring. I hate Lord of the Rings, and it seemed like that sort of thing. And I finally watched it because so many people were talking about it, and then I found myself talking about it because it's just so good. It's one of those things that you just want to tell people about. So piracy plays a huge part in that word of mouth sort of thing.
Definitely.
Like, it just helps.
You can't really put a monetary value on word of mouth or your scope on like social media, but the more people that see it, the more people will talk about it, and that's arguably more important. I'd prefer.
I mean, again, if you're a real artist, then you don't want money. You want people to see your art and to be inspired by your art. So if people are doing that for free and you complain about it, then you're sort of forfeiting your artistic integrity in a way. I don't know.
But piracy is it's a whole debate in itself. You could talk about it for hours.
We could do a show on it. Make a note.
Maybe we should.
Not
immediately.
Not in the future. Not in the near future, but at some point.
Not in the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Not in the next 10 to 15 episodes either.
I don't know. What do you want to conclude on? What's your outline message?
I don't know. We've got someone in the chat on Ustream.
Really, what they say?
Said this is like 2 hours ago. This was right at the start of the show.
Do they say
we
time
completely missed this? I've always wondered why Canary Wharf isn't on Monopoly board. It says Riswald. Sorry, Risward. I've never wondered that. Have you?
I've never wondered that. No, Canary Wharf Monopoly. When was Canary Wharf named?
I don't even know.
Canary Wharf.
Not entirely sure what Canary Wharf is.
Like the businessy area, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Why is it not on Monopoly? I've no idea.
Don't know.
Oh, it is on the new Monopoly.
Oh, well, there you go then. There you go, Risward. I'll ban him, shall I?
Canary Wharf, King's Cross, Victoria,
I'll
Soho,
delete his
Wimbledon,
comment and I'll ban him. He doesn't seem
Kensington, right on the board. Canary Wharf. So who was it? Riswald.
Risward.
Well, thank you for getting in touch, Rizzy.
Thanks for getting it totally wrong.
Come back next episode.
Embarrassing. Yeah.
Google.
Come back when you've read a book.
Google it before you.
Come on.
No, we love you. We love the interaction.
Yeah, thank you for anyone who's listened live.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Remember, we're live most TFC podcasts. We'll do live
from now on. Yeah. Follow us on Twitter and we'll just tweet about it.
Yeah, Facebook.
Or follow us on Ustream if you do that. I don't really.
I'll be away next week. Orphanage. At the orphanage. But
what actually are you doing?
I'm going to Glastonbury.
Okay.
But we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And our upcoming topic, Phil, is comedy.
Oh yeah, comedy. Okay, comedy.
And so that'll be on the 6th of July.
6th of July. I'll have to update the website. The website's wrong then.
So we'll prepare that.
We'll preparate for that.
And then we'll tweet it all out, get in touch, get involved.
Yeah.
It's been a longer episode, I believe, than usual.
It's been 2 hours and 24 minutes.
Wow. And that we didn't even cover all of it. But it was nice. It was nice to chat.
Yeah, it's good.
It went a lot better than I expected.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Because I don't know anything about games and it went
Could have gone awfully,
Yeah.
but it only went bad.
Yeah, it only went 2 out of 10. No, I enjoyed myself.
No, it went well, yeah. Good ep.
Had a good laugh.
Yeah. And this is the second time I've done it live. Nothing seems to have gone wrong. The picture of us on the Ustream is still us with really warped faces and fire in the foreground. So
We don't actually look like that.
Oh, no.
Well, I do. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but thanks for listening, though.
And until next time, from Phil,
Goodbye.
from myself, adios!